Chapter 155, 9 Dragons Royal Carriage, 1. Hiss! Just when Wang Xian was staring at the venomous sea snakes, they stuck out their tongues slowly and wriggled out from the caves. With cold and sharp eyes, they glared at him as they squeezed their bodies together. These venomous sea snakes are thinking of devouring me. As Wang Xian sensed the look from the venomous sea snakes, he slowly retreated. 9 level 10 venomous sea snakes were something of a threat to him. Especially when these snakes were much stronger than roving heavens. Wang Xian could suppress roving heavens, but he had to be careful when facing these venomous sea snakes. The venomous sea snakes wanted to devour him as a lower-level divine dragon. If they could devour him, they could turn into dragons immediately. Gobble him up. Just as Wang Xian's thoughts were running, the venomous sea snake at the center threw its coiled body at him at a fast speed. The intelligent snakes decided to join forces and attack him. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. He swiped his tail gently, creating a muddy swamp area with streams of water currents. But to his surprise, the 9 venomous sea snakes were moving as fast as him. After all, they have the bloodline of Wind Divine Dragon. Even Thunder Dragon could not compare its speed with them. Wang Xian showed a stern look on his face. Seeing the incoming attack from the 9 venomous sea snakes, he swept his tail across. All the snakes were about 5 meters long, and their bodies were thicker than a human thigh. But they were smaller than Wang Xian. Bam! The mighty divine dragon power swept 3 venomous sea snakes more than 10 meters away. But the 4th venomous sea snake opened its bloody mouth and bit onto Wang Xian's tail with its black teeth. The immediate numbness stiffened up Wang Xian's body. At the same time, the other 5 venomous sea snakes widened their lips just to chew at his body. Hiss! Wang Xian felt the immense pain as he sensed the poisonous teeth sinking into his body. This is bad. Their intelligence is too high to have a perfect joint attack. Wang Xian had a slight expression change. The 9 venomous sea snakes seemed to know what each other was thinking such that they could achieve a perfect attack. Drops of fresh blood were absorbed by 5 poisonous snakes. If they did not bite on the body part which had the most robust defense, his injuries might be more serious. Get lost! Wang Xian exclaimed, and the 5 colors on his body were flashing violently. Finally, his body turned green. Green, the wood attributes of the divine dragon with anti-poison effect. Roar! Wang Xian widened his mouth and spurted a gust of green gas from it. SSS. The intense wood attributes gave off a sizzling sound when they hit the venomous sea snakes. Hiss! The 6 venomous sea snakes were in pain as they quickly loosened their bite and retreated. Wang Xian jerked, releasing the green gas from his body, and his injuries were slowly recovering. Hiss! The 9 venomous sea snakes stared at Wang Xian ferociously as they surrounded him once again. Wang Xian stared back at them with icy cold eyes. He swayed his green body and cast a glance at the black seaweed in the surrounding area. Roar! This time, Wang Xian decided to strike before them. The greenwood attributes spread out to the surroundings. Whoosh! Just then, the seaweed around them began to grow exponentially. Thousands of seaweeds twisted and slid towards the 9 venomous sea snakes. Hiss! The venomous sea snakes swished and swam rapidly towards Wang Xian for an attack again. Ignorant! Wang Xian exuded a rich and immense green gas, causing the surrounding water plants to grow frantically. It was as though the wood release from the first Hokage in the Naruto manga series. Even though he had yet to master the ability to trap his opponent with massive wood, he could control the seaweed growing frantically within more than 10 meters. Hiss! The 9 venomous sea snakes swirled their bodies as they avoided the seaweed. But the amount was too substantial such that they could not move. You can't stop us, die! A venomous sea snake stuck out its tongue as it quickly struggled out from the seaweed. I'm still too weak. The seaweed cannot hold them for long. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. He got an idea. You are asking for your own death. As Wang Xian waved his dragon claws in the water, all the seaweed around him gathered and entwined together, trapping 9 venomous sea snakes in a semicircle. Bam! A snake tried to bash its way through a small hole. They were, in fact, just poisonous snakes without any claws. As such, they would need at least 10 seconds to break out from the trap. Now! Wang Xian took a deep breath. This move determined success. If he failed, he'd need to be stronger before he came back here again. The radiance on his body flashed again before he turned into a blue marine dragon. Suck! He opened his mouth and sucked up all the lake water in the area surrounded by the seaweed. A vacuum area was created at the bottom of the lake. The venomous sea snakes were petrified as they quickly struggled out of the seaweed. Go to hell! With an icy cold look, he could only barbecue this bunch of ignorant fellows. The colors on his body switched again. The inferno dragon was exuding blazing hot flames. As the lake water seethed, he opened his mouth and spat out a dragon ball. The dragon ball charged and attacked the area surrounded by the seaweed. Cremation. Flames of more than 10 meters were fired off and landed on the black seaweeds. Boom! As all the lake water was already sucked up by Wang Xian, the entire area was burning in the fire as soon as the flame landed on the seaweed. The bottom of the lake was on fire. From the top, the entire lake looked like a red, fiery volcano ready to erupt. It was horrifying. Hoo-hoo! Wang Xian returned to the azure dragon form as he panted slightly. After releasing a few of the high-consumption attacks in one go, it was tedious for him too. In azure dragon form, he could quickly rejuvenate himself. The flame burned, seething the lake water. The entire bottom of the lake formed a fascinating picture. Hiss! Wang Xian stared coldly as he heard the dreadful cries from the venomous sea snakes in the sea. The flames slowly reduced under the control of the Dragon Ball. Shoo! At this time, the Dragon Ball flew back into Wang Xian's mouth as he devoured it. The fire disappeared. All the seaweed within 100 meters was turned into ashes. The 9 venomous sea snakes were bound in the middle with their heads leaning against each other. A burning smell came from their bodies as they were covered by a thick layer of blood. What a pathetic scene. However, they did not die. They leaned against each other and resisted the fearsome fire attack of the Dragon Ball. Even so, they were seriously injured, hugging themselves together lifelessly. The harshness in their eyes had completely disappeared. Wang Xian was shocked by what he saw. The assault that he had performed was equivalent to 3 level 6 divine dragons striking out together. Yet, they were only seriously wounded. In that case. His eyes glinted and he said 3 words slowly. Surrender or die. Chapter 156, 9 Dragons Royal Carriage. Surrender or die. Wang Xian swayed his body and covered it with his dragon might while looking coldly at the 9 venomous sea snakes. The 9 venomous sea snakes gathered together and looked at Wang Xian in horror. As they had the bloodline of the divine dragon, Wang Xian had an innate advantage against them. However, Wang Xian's level was too low and he was too weak. Therefore, the 9 venomous sea snakes had wanted to devour Wang Xian initially. After suffering grave injuries and in the face of a real dragon, they were shivering in fear. Surrender or die. Wang Xian lifted his dragon claws and repeated himself. We surrender. Under Wang Xian's might, the venomous sea snakes lowered their heads and replied. Absorb these. Wang Xian threw out drops of divine dragon blood essence onto the heads of the 9 venomous sea snakes. The eyes of the 9 venomous sea snakes lit up when they saw the blood essence. However, they were also hesitating. Looking at the mighty Wang Xian, they chose to absorb the essence blood eventually. Wang Xian revealed a satisfied smile. These 9 venomous sea snakes had the bloodline of the wind divine dragon and could be considered as rare existences. Only the venomous sea snakes had the bloodline of the wind divine dragon and had preserved their evolution path. Their bloodlines were extremely pure. However, it wouldn't be easy for them to eventually evolve into the wind divine dragon. To evolve into a dragon, they required thousands of years of cultivation. If they did not have any great chance encounters, it would be hard for them to become wind divine dragons. However, the paths of these 9 venomous sea snakes would undoubtedly be smoother after Wang Xian imparted them the cultivation arts of the wind divine dragon. As long as they cultivated diligently, there would be a day where they made the leap through the dragon gate and evolved into a divine dragon. Looking at the looks of these 9 venomous sea snakes, they should be able to evolve into serpents soon. Wang Xian's eyes lit up as he stared at these 9 venomous sea snakes. From the first time he saw them, he had an idea in mind. 9 dragons' royal carriage. That's right. It would be to take the 9 dragons' royal carriage as he went on a supervision trip around the world. The thought of 9 divine dragons. No. Even if it was just 9 serpents flying in the air pulling the throne, that would be an awe-inspiring moment. Wang Xian's eyes were burning with passion as he stared at these 9 venomous sea snakes. As he waved his dragon claws, dense wood attribute energy entered their bodies, treating their wounds. Thank you, Dragon King. The injuries on the 9 venomous sea snakes recovered gradually. They remained at the bottom of the lake and bowed down respectfully. All right, rest well over the next few days. I'll be bringing you to the seas after that. Wang Xian looked at them. Yes, Dragon King. The 9 venomous sea snakes nodded their heads. Cultivate diligently. Wang Xian took another glance at them before swimming back into the lake. Wang Xian was exceptionally satisfied to be able to subdue these 9 subordinates from Lake Xianfeng for this trip. These 9 venomous sea snakes were even more important than a group of devil monkeys. Within the entire group of devil monkeys, only roving heavens could possibly match the 9 venomous sea snakes. The rest of them wouldn't be a match. Splash! Flying out from the lake, Wang Xian put on his underwear before getting into his room quickly. I've got to get some clothing equipment in the future. Otherwise, it will be too troublesome to remove my clothes when turning into a dragon. It would be best if I could get celestial equipment that could freely change its size, Wang Xian thought to himself. Seeing that it was 11 p.m., he went to bed without thinking further. Brother, time to get up. The next day morning, Xiaoyu tried to wake Wang Xian up early in the morning. Brother, let's go. Sister Li is holding a wedding banquet in a hotel in the city. A hotel in the city? Are we going that far? Can't they do it within the county? Wang Xian changed into his clothes quickly while looking at Xiaoyu with doubtful eyes. This is a decision by Sister Li's husband. He said that it will look grandiose if it is done in the city and he wanted to marry Sister Li in a grand way. Uncle Zhang has the same view too. They have given a dowry of $580,000 and it should be enough, Xiaoyu explained. Alright then. Let's head to Uncle Zhang's house. Wang Xian and Xiaoyu went over to Uncle Zhang's house. There were quite a few people in the yard when they arrived. They were all people who were managing different aspects of the county. For example, someone who held a role similar to the village chief, and there was also someone responsible for collecting and managing their common funds. Hey, Xiao Xian and Xiaoyu. You guys are here. When the crowd saw them, they quickly greeted. Wang Xian smiled and returned the greetings. He looked to Uncle Zhang and asked, Uncle Zhang, is there anything I can help with? Nothing. Oh right, I heard that you got a car. Can you send Sister Li and Aunt Zhang to the hotel in a while? I'll inform the hotel about it. Uncle Zhang was going to be busy. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. 9 a.m. Sister Li and Aunt Zhang followed Wang Xian and Xiaoyu to the yard. When she saw the pink Bentley, she was filled with shock. Xiaoyu, this Bentley cost at least $4 million, right? Yeah, my brother got it for me. However, they didn't charge my brother for it. Xiaoyu chuckled. No charge. Sister Li was confused. $4 million. Oh my gosh. Aunt Zhang looked at the car in disbelief. Xiaoyu opened the door and ushered the group in. Aunt Zhang looked at the internal decorations of the car inquisitively. Sisterly, which hotel are we going to? Let me get the GPS set up. Sanwan International Hotel. All right. Wang Xian sat beside the driver and the car drove out slowly. The crowd that was gathered at the doorstep of Uncle Zhang's house was shocked by what they had seen. No one had expected the Wang siblings to be doing so well. The journey lasted 30 minutes and the car arrived at the city center. Sanwan International Hotel was a good hotel. Pengzhou was just a small county and didn't have a 5-star hotel. The car stopped by the side. Aunt Zhang and Sister Li alighted and headed into the hotel. Why don't you follow Sister Li and Aunt Zhang? I'll go get some money, Wang Xian said to Xiaoyu. All right, brother. It was Sister Li's wedding and Wang Xian naturally wanted to give some monetary gift. He withdrew $660,000 as it was an auspicious number. When he got back to the hotel, Aunt Zhang and Sister Li had settled the matters in the hotel. The hotel was big and could accommodate more than one wedding. Another family was hosting a wedding beside Sister Li today. The entrance to the other wedding was decorated in a grand manner. As for Sister Li's side, they didn't put up much decoration as they were simply inviting relatives and friends over for a meal and weren't having any other ceremony. When Wang Xian arrived at a temporary room in the hotel lobby, he saw Sister Li had changed into her wedding costume. Xiao Li, give Xiao Wei a call again. Ask him if he's coming. Aunt Zhang told Sister Li grumpily. All right, Mom. Sister Li nodded her head, took out a phone and dialed a number. Tell me. He isn't even going to show up at the wedding. How am I going to face our relatives and friends in the future? Aunt Zhang grumbled. It isn't that our daughter has to marry into a rich family. It's all because of their child's action. Aunt Zhang, calm down. A wedding should be a joyous event. When Sister Li heads to Rivertown, my brother and I will accompany Sister Li. Chapter 157, The Monetary Gift. Mom, Xiao Wei couldn't make it as he is being held up at home, said Sister Li as she walked very quickly towards her mom. She held on to her mobile phone, and was not looking very good. Just what is going on? Your dad has already told him yesterday that we will have the wedding in Rivertown and we don't even need the wedding car. We are having the ceremony right here and now, shouldn't he just show up, at the very least? Aunt Zhang stood up with an awkward look and said, our relatives will be here any moment, are we going to tell them that the groom is busy and couldn't make it? Who would buy this story? Mom, Xiao Wei wished to be here as well, it's just that. I understand, it's his parents, there, sigh, let's forget it. Holding on to her frustration, Aunt Zhang raised her palms and did not utter a single word. Sister Li sat at the side, looking displeased as her eyes turned red. Wang Xian and Xiaoyu witnessed the whole incident and frowned. This brother-in-law was just too much. Xiao Li, please welcome the guests in at the front door. Xiaoyu, you shall help her out as well. About half an hour later, Uncle Zhang walked in, and he knew what had happened. Looking displeased he said, let's manage what's here and not be bothered by the rest. Yes, Uncle Zhang. Xiaoyu stood up and nodded. I will help to welcome our guests in as well, Wang Xian said happily as he stood up. All right, we're counting on you kids. Uncle Zhang thought as he nodded that his son-in-law did not live up to his expectations. Fortunately, he was proud to show that he had a promising nephew. Everyone here had a huge sense of pride. That included Uncle Zhang. Wang Xian, Xiaoyu, and Sister Li arrived at the hall of the hotel. At the entrance, another family was also holding a wedding ceremony, right beside theirs. Both the bride and groom welcomed their guests as they stood by the reception. Judging from their guests' identities, they could tell that the families lived in Pengzhou and life could not be better. Uncle and aunt-in-law, this way please. Sister Li said with a smile as she saw her own uncle, second brother in her dad's family, and his wife. Oh my, you look gorgeous today, where's your boyfriend? Show him to your aunt-in-law, the lady said as she walked into the front door. My boyfriend has yet to arrive as he is caught in a jam on the highway, Sister Li expressed with some embarrassment. Oh, he should have come a day in advance. Anyway, I know you'll be busy down here, so I shall make my way in. Sister Lee nodded, looking awkward. It was truly an embarrassment that her own husband was not present on their wedding day. At this moment, another group of relatives had arrived. Sister Lee welcomed them with a big smile. Aunt Zhang also came to welcome each and every guest. Xiao Yu also went up to welcome them with Wang Xian, who brought a smile. Oh my, you are really beautiful today. Our Xiao Li shall be enjoying her new life with her new wealthy family, but you still have to visit your own family more often in the future. Xiao Yu, I heard that you and your brother have won a fortune, is that true? Congratulations, and don't forget about your neighbors. Xiao Yu showed some awkwardness as the group of adoring relatives and neighbors pulled her aside and bombarded her with questions. Oh yes, Xiao Li, where's your future husband? I don't see him anywhere. He has yet to arrive as he's caught in the traffic jam. Xiao Li tried to explain boldly as she gave the look of embarrassment. Some nodded, while some had their doubts but did not question. The groom of the other wedding looked at them with a frown and said, "They are so rowdy. Must be some villagers, such an annoyance. We shall have someone remind them to keep their volume down when our guests have arrived," the bride replied with displeasure as well. The groom nodded his head. Wang Xian stood at a corner, watching people starting to present their monetary gifts, many of them in the form of cash, and he walked out of the hotel after notifying Xiao Yu. He had left the money that he had withdrawn in his car. As he walked out of the hotel, he saw a group of more than 30 neighbors alighting from a bus. The bus was rented by Uncle Zhang to pick up the neighbors. "Hey Xiao Xian, where are you going?" a neighbor asked with a smile. "I need to grab something," Wang Xian replied in their direction. "Our Xiao Xian has just won a fortune, shouldn't you be treating your neighbors to a drink?" asked a middle-aged man. "We need to leave tomorrow, perhaps another time," he replied. "I need to grab something, please excuse me." Humph. This fellow is so full of himself. That middle-aged man looked displeased as he felt that Wang Xian was treating them with a perfunctory attitude. I could not agree more. We went to his house yesterday. Clearly, he was at home, but he didn't answer the door even when I shouted for him a couple of times. This fellow thinks that he is capable enough to be ignorant, he's definitely full of himself. I agree, he is so insensible that he doesn't give that respect to his elders, the elder relatives whispered with criticism as they saw him walking away. They were given the cold shoulder when they just wished to give that pleasant approach. Naturally, it sparked unhappiness. "All right, let's get going, he might not even come back to us anymore," said a highly respected elder, as he led the group into the hotel. Unknown to them, all that was spoken had been heard by Wang Xian. Humph. Why should I give you all those benefits? I am well aware of those who treated me well, the rest is not my business. Wang Xian felt disappointed, but he did not argue with them. As he arrived at the hotel's parking lot, he took out the $660,000 in cash from his car. He knew that Uncle Zhang was holding on to that pride, so he had to uphold that pride for him. He took the money and made his way back to the hotel. "Oh, Xiao Li, why isn't your husband here? I hope he's not looking down on us." "That's right, Xiao Li, that is so insensible of him for not showing up. If he's not going to show up for the wedding, I wonder what's going to happen for the rest of your life." Sometimes, one may not be blessed with happiness even after being married to a wealthy family. Wang Xian heard all those comments made by the people surrounding her as he walked into the hotel. Wang Xian knew those ladies who were talking had some conflicts with Uncle Zhang in the past. These people, seriously. Wang Xian shook his head and frowned as he watched the embarrassed looks on Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang. "Please excuse me, Uncle, I would like to present my monetary gift." Wang Xian spoke as he walked towards the crowd. "Oh, Xiao Xian has come to present his monetary gift, over here." The middle-aged man made a path for him. Wang Xian thanked him and made his way to the reception. "How much are you presenting, Xiao Xian?" asked another middle-aged man who was accounting for the gifts. $660,000. Wang Xian put the pouch on the table as he replied, and took the stack of cash out. What? $660,000. Chapter 158, Strength, 1. The middle-aged man taking records couldn't hold back his exclamation, and this drew the attention of the crowd. Those who were chatting and those who were waiting to give their monetary gifts turned their heads over immediately. Xiao Xian, you. Are you sure you would like to give all this as a monetary gift? The middle-aged man doing recording stood up and asked in disbelief. $660,000. Oh my gosh. The kid from the Wang family is giving $660,000 as a monetary gift. $660,000 as a monetary gift. He must be filthy rich. I heard that Wang Xian just gave old Zhang's family gifts that cost $400,000 to $500,000 yesterday. Today, he gave $660,000 as a monetary gift. That would be over $1 million in total. Oh my gosh. The Wang sibling is filthy rich. Old Zhang took great care of the Wang siblings and their grandmother in the past. Now that the Wang siblings have gotten rich, it's time that they start returning the kindness. Isn't this a little too extravagant? Giving out $1 million in just a few days? $660,000 as a monetary gift. That's enough to get a house in the county. The neighbors looked over and their faces were filled with shock and envy. Monetary gifts in the hundreds would be sufficient. Those who were closer might give a few thousand. However, Wang Xian gave $660,000 as a monetary gift. He must be really rich. When Uncle Zhang saw the thick stack of monetary gifts, he was taken aback slightly. He stood up and walked over immediately. Xiao Xian, take it back. I can't accept these. You have already spent over $500,000 on gifts. Take it back. Save it for the time when you get a wife. It's fine, Uncle Zhang. It's just a small token. It's only natural for me to give some gifts for Sister Li's wedding. Just keep it and spend as you wish. I'm not lacking this money either. Wang Xian smiled and replied to Uncle Zhang. Even if you aren't lacking these, you shouldn't be giving so much. Take it back, son. It's really fine. When Uncle Zhang is free, come to Rivertown and I'll bring you around. Wang Xian waved his hand. This, Uncle Zhang was hesitating. He also knew that Wang Xian was really rich now and his sister was driving a luxury car that cost over $4 million. However, he was still really moved to see Wang Xian willing to spend $1 million on him. Uncle Zhang patted Wang Xian on his shoulders and continued, I didn't really help you guys much and the help isn't worth that much. Uncle Zhang, some gratitude shouldn't be measured in monetary terms. Wang Xian replied to Uncle Zhang in a serious tone. Sigh. All right then. Although I don't have a son, having you as a nephew is better than having a son. Uncle Zhang was teary-eyed and moved. Uncle Zhang, you should go entertain your neighbors. You don't have to be so courteous with us. Wang Xian smiled. Great, great. The gloominess that hung over Uncle Zhang was gone and he revealed an excited look. This nephew of his had really made him proud. Don't just stand here, get a seat inside. The banquet will be starting soon. Please take a seat and wait a moment. Old Zhang, you are really lucky. Your daughter is marrying into a rich family and now you have such a nephew. I'm really envious. Yeah, Old Zhang, $660,000 as monetary gift. I believe you could enjoy the remainder of your life. Haze. Who would have expected the Wang siblings to return old Zhang's kindness in such a way? The Wang siblings are really rich now and old Zhang is really lucky. If we had. As the crowd was discussing, some were feeling regretful. If they had taken care of the Wang siblings previously, they might be the ones on the receiving end right now. Can you guys shut up and stop your babbling? Are you treating this as your house? Have you guys not seen the outside world before? At this moment, a cold sneer sounded from the side. The crowd was slightly shocked and turned around. At one end, a slightly plump and burly young man extended his arm and revealed his tattoo. He was pointing at the crowd and shouting, "Damn you! Can't you keep your volume down?" Seeing that everyone had looked over, he shouted at them once again. Seeing this, Uncle Zhang's expression changed. He immediately walked over and apologized, "I'm sorry that we have gotten a little noisy." "I'm sorry." The bride and groom beside the young man stared at Uncle Zhang coldly and sneered, "I wonder what you guys are babbling about. The groom isn't here and yet you guys are making so much noise." "That's right. The groom can't be seen." "Perhaps he's not coming," the groom and the bride remarked sarcastically. The young man beside them raised an eyebrow and added, "Oh, so the groom isn't here yet. Hee hee. Are you guys hosting a wedding banquet with a dead person? What is there to be happy about?" The mockeries of the bride and groom had embarrassed Uncle Zhang. When Uncle Zhang heard what the young man said, his face turned red immediately. He was already mad that the groom wasn't here today. Now that he heard others commenting that his daughter was marrying a dead person, his body shivered in anger. You better watch your words," Uncle Zhang said in agitation. "You better clean your mouth. Have you eaten shit?" When Wang Xian heard the young man and saw the embarrassed looks on Uncle Zhang, he walked over emotionlessly as he spoke to the young man. "So what if I've said it? I, Feng Hai, have not been afraid of anyone in Pengzhou," the young man replied arrogantly to Uncle Zhang and Wang Xian. "They are here, Feng Hai. Don't waste your time entertaining the group of clowns." At this moment, the groom saw cars stopping outside and immediately reminded Feng Hai. "TSK, trash." Feng Hai sneered at Wang Xian before turning to the groom and nodding his head. He saw people were arriving at the entrance and the three of them immediately went over. "That's too much." Uncle Zhang looked at their back views, feeling embarrassed. These young men are really rude and arrogant. Yeah, they are too arrogant. Is this something a human would say? The surrounding neighbor commented and also looked at the back views of these young men with displeasure. That is. However, at this moment, a middle-aged man was shocked to see the group of people that these young men had gone over to receive. Walking at the front was a middle-aged man in a suit. He was full of smiles. Uncle Zhang and his neighbor knew this middle-aged man well. He was one of the top figures in the entire Feng Lake County. The middle-aged man didn't have a good reputation. He had a group of underlings and no one in the entire Feng Lake County dared to offend him. They saw the middle-aged man talking with the groom and bride while also trying to get on the good books of Feng Hai. Du Qingshan. That's Du Qingshan. He's actually trying to get on the good books of that young man. That young man must have a strong backing for Du Qingshan to be acting so respectfully. Du Qingshan is here. Look at those behind him. Aren't those famous businessmen in Pengzhou? Oh my gosh. The families and friends of this family are really awesome. We can't afford to offend them. Since even Du Qingshan is trying to get on the good books of them, Feng Hai must be someone influential in Pengzhou too. There's no wonder why they were so arrogant. The surrounding crowd looked in shock as they witnessed the arrival of the group of people. Uncle Zhang looked even more ghastly. He clenched his fist tightly but his expression gradually turned into a helpless look. Chapter 159, Strength, 2. The relatives and friends of this family are really impressive, let's just go to our seats now. A rather esteemed elder saw that all the guests entering were reputable people from Pengzhou, and he sighed faintly. Let's go in. Some people made these comments indignantly. The young chap earlier on had not only pointed at them and scolded them, he even said nasty words to them. This made them feel very helpless. The other person had such strong connections, even Du Qingshan from the county had to fawn on him. To find fault with that young chap? It was akin to seeking trouble for oneself. Not to mention that there were others who seemed to have extraordinary identities in the crowd. Let's go in, Xiao Xian. Uncle Zhang looked with unease as he spoke. His daughter had gotten married off, and things that went against his wishes kept happening. Wait a moment, let's go over, Uncle Zhang. At this moment, Wang Xian saw the young chap walking alongside the bride and groom, showing respect as they walked towards the crowd. There was a slight smile on his face with a tinge of arrogance. Uncle Zhang looked at Wang Xian with bewilderment. Come with me, Uncle Zhang, I cannot take this lying down anymore. Wang Xian gave a cold look as he turned his head towards Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, let's go over. At this moment, Xiaoyu nodded her head and gave a slight smile as she looked upon the young chap and the bride and groom receiving people with respect. Forget it, Xiao Xian, they are mighty, and that Du Qingshan is a renowned character in the county. We cannot afford to offend him. Uncle Zhang looked on with discomfort as he tugged at Wang Xian's arm. No worries, Uncle Zhang, leave it to me. Wang Xian looked at Uncle Zhang and gave him a reassuring look. Uncle Zhang frowned and shook his head. Forget it, forget it. Then I shall go over with Xiaoyu. Wang Xian smiled when he saw that Uncle Zhang disliked getting into trouble. Wang Xian and Xiaoyu then walked towards the direction where the young chap and the bride and groom were situated. Sigh, this kid, Xiao Xian. Uncle Zhang looked uneasily and went along, as he was afraid that Wang Xian might lose out. As the young chap and the couple walked in, they immediately frowned and expressed displeasure as soon as Wang Xian and his company of two walked towards them. What are you guys here for? Are you trying to pick a fight? Just as Wang Xian and his company walked over, Feng Hai stared at them with aggression. Maybe it was because he was apprehensive about the few people around, therefore he did not start yelling. However, the few people, including a middle-aged couple, who were talking to the bride and groom were stunned. Some of them even threw curious looks over. When they saw Wang Xian and Xiaoyu, they were visibly astonished. We are here to give you a slap. Wang Xian looked at Feng Hai coldly and uttered. Such harsh words, what kind of upbringing did you have, humph? Xiaoyu, who was also beside Wang Xian, spoke to Feng Hai. Xiao Xian and Xiaoyu. Standing behind them was Uncle Zhang, looking flustered. He immediately pulled Wang Xian and Xiaoyu back. What are Xiao Xian and Xiaoyu doing? Why are they trying to offend that young chap? I think they are trying to dig their own graves. Even Du Qingshan has to be respectful towards that young chap. What exactly are they trying to do? These two people are just fooling around, they think that just because they are rich, they are so great. They had better not bring it upon us. This pair of Wang's siblings are just too full of themselves. Just because they have that bit of money, they never realize there are people out there who are even richer and more powerful than they are. Just behind them, the people of Feng Lake County were showing signs of uneasiness, as they whispered amongst each other. Saint! Damn it, are you trying to dig your own grave? Today, my brother is getting married here, and we have elders here. While I still have a good mood, you better get out of my sight immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being nasty. At this moment, Feng Hai expressed his anger after hearing what Wang Xian said. He immediately pointed at Wang Xian and Xiaoyu, shouted angrily and threatened them boastfully. His voice interrupted an elderly man who was just beside and wanted to speak. The elderly man was astonished, and the middle-aged man and a young man that stood beside the elder were equally astonished. Fuck! The middle-aged man beside the elderly man directly spoke of vulgarity and expressed his discomfort and anger. To everyone's surprise, the middle-aged man swung his palm in full force and slapped Feng Hai hard in his face. Smack! Feng Hai could not even react in time, and even if he could dodge, he would not dare to do so. The middle-aged man's palm landed on Feng Hai's face, and the sound of the slap echoed through the main hall. This kind of force showed that the middle-aged man did not hold back his strength, and there was even a possibility that a few of Feng Hai's teeth might have fallen out. The crowd surrounding them were astonished. The family of the bride and groom were utterly shocked as they looked at the middle-aged man beside them. The middle-aged man and his family were notable figures that they had gone through painstaking efforts to invite. If it were not for the sake of their grandfather, the middle-aged man and his family would not even have come. But they could not figure out why. Why would the middle-aged man directly slap their friend's face? However, what shocked the crowd more was the fact that the middle-aged man and the elder were going over to the side of Wang Xian and Xiao Yu immediately. They bent their bodies, showing a great sign of respect on their faces. Saintess, Mr. Wang. These three people were not just any other people. They were the Song family from Pengzhou. The young man was Song Aowen, a disciple from the Thistles and Thorns sect. The middle-aged man and the elderly man were also participants of the selections conducted by the Thistles and Thorns sect. As they saw the future sect leader of the Thistles and Thorns sect, aka the Honorable Saintess, as well as the miracle Dr. Wang, even the Song family wanted to fawn over them, so they naturally did not dare to stir any more trouble. They saluted respectfully. As to how Feng Hai spoke towards the Saintess and Mr. Wang, they were also not going to relent. If Mr. Wang said to slap your face, you had to do it. Xiao Yu nodded her head. She was the Saintess of the Thorns and Thistles sect, so it would be more appropriate for her to handle the matter. Xiao Yu looked at the astonished faces of the bride and groom's families and gave a faint smile. Why did you all spout a vulgarity earlier on? Apologize to my uncle now. The bride and groom were stunned as they looked at Xiao Yu. Apologize. I asked both of you to apologize, you hear me? The elder from the Song family had a sullen expression as he gave the command to the bride and groom's families. Director Song, we. The families of the bride and groom left their mouths open in disbelief. Do you need me to teach all of you? If this matter is not settled with a solution that we are satisfied with, I think the Li family can cease to exist in Pengzhou. The elder of the Song family stared at the families of the bride and groom coldly. His warm expression had disappeared from his face. The families of the bride and groom felt a shiver down their spines. When they saw how serious the face of the elder was, they were terrified. So, sorry, it was our fault just now. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu did not say a word but continued to stare at them coldly. I am sorry, it was my fault. Please, I beg of you to forgive us. As they felt the icy stares of the three members of the Song family, the silence of the young man and young woman, both of their voices quivered, as if they were about to cry. You should apologize to my uncle. Wang Xian spoke coldly. I apologize. The bride and groom were thoroughly afraid. Who did they offend exactly? Why is the Song family treating them with such respect and falling out with us? Chapter 160, Strength, 3. The entire hotel lobby quietened down. This included Uncle Zhang's relatives and friends and also the relatives and friends of the bride and groom. The businessmen and influential figures on Pengzhou that they had invited over were looking at the development in disbelief. They knew clearly of the background of the bride and groom. The groom's grandfather is the president of a mining organization. He could be considered as one of the earliest batches of people in Pengzhou who got rich. Although the family business had been on a decline, the groom's grandfather had great connections throughout Pengzhou. As long as his grandfather was still around, the majority of the people in Rivertown would be respectful to him. Many rich men in Pengzhou were invited to the wedding. In fact, the old master had even invited members of the Song family. The Song family was the strongest family in Pengzhou at this moment. Their background was mysterious but strong. In Pengzhou, whenever the Song family stomped its feet, the entire Pengzhou would feel the tremors. Yet, the three members of the Song family were bowing down respectfully to a juvenile sibling and even ordered the groom and bride to apologize. Why would the Wang siblings be so influential? Even the guests that were invited by the other party had to be respectful to them and even slapped the arrogant young man for the Wang sibling. That's incredible. How did the Wang siblings get to know those influential figures? Even these people had to be respectful to the Wang siblings. Look! Du Qingshan is walking over. All the influential figures had gathered there. Oh my gosh! All of them are going over to greet those siblings. How can this be possible? Behind them, Uncle Zhang and his relatives and friends were dumbfounded. Those were people that they couldn't offend. Yet, when the Wang siblings went over, even those influential figures had to bow to the Wang siblings and even ordered the bride and groom to apologize. In fact, even Du Qingshan, who had been overbearing in the entire Feng Lake County, just stood there like a small underling. He wasn't at the level of those influential figures yet. At this very moment, Uncle Zhang was completely shocked and stood there in a daze. He saw that arrogant young man fall to the floor from the slap. And he saw the arrogant bride and groom bowing down and apologizing in fear. This was completely beyond his imagination. Xiao Yu, Xiao Xian. Uncle Zhang opened his mouth and looked at his nephew and niece. Wang Xian smiled at Uncle Zhang before looking coldly at that couple. Seeing that it's your wedding today, I won't be calculative with you guys. Thank you, thank you. The bride and groom had already been scared out of their wits. When they realized Director Song didn't add a word, they finally heaved a huge sigh of relief. If he was someone that the Song family was so fearful of, what would the groom and bride even be in front of him? However, I wouldn't just let that young man off so easily. Wang Xian glanced at Feng Hai, who was just getting up. Feng Hai's mouth was filled with blood and his entire face had been deformed. I'll leave this to you guys. Xiao Yu frowned upon seeing Feng Hai, speaking to the three members of the Song family. Yes, yes. We will definitely give the Saintess and Mr. Wang a satisfactory explanation. Three members of the Song family replied immediately. This was the order of the Saintess. Even if the Saintess wanted to crush the Li family, the Song family would not hesitate a moment. When Feng Hai heard what the Song family members said, his eyes were filled with despair. Following which, he blacked out and fell to the ground. Since the Song family had spoken, he was finished. Even if he was not dead, he would be severely punished. The faces of the bride and groom, together with the surrounding crowd, had turned as white as sheets. Mr. Wang, Saintess. I had not expected to bump into you guys in Pengzhou. Are you all here to attend a wedding too? The old man from the Song family looked around before asking this with a smile. Yeah. We are from Pengzhou too. My sister is getting married today. Seeing how careful the Song family was acting, Xiao Yu smiled and nodded her head. Oh? Is that so? What a coincidence. Since she's a relative of the Saintess, she's also a relative of the Song family. Hee hee. The old man from the Song family smiled. She's the only relative we have in Pengzhou. Please help them along in the future. Wang Xian placed his hands over the shoulders of Uncle Zhang as he spoke to the old man from the Song family. Not a problem at all. This is just a small matter. Rest assured, Mr. Wang. Just leave this to the Song family. The old man from the Song family immediately gave his guarantee. After this, he smiled. Since they are the relatives of the Saintess and Mr. Wang, they are one of us. Let's go over a while. Xiao Kun, prepare some gifts for them. Yes, father. The middle-aged man beside the old man nodded his head. Following which, he headed towards the table that was collecting the monetary gifts. Du Qingshan, who was standing at one corner, looked at the development in disbelief. Suddenly, he spotted a familiar figure among the crowd. His expression changed, and he walked to Uncle Zhang and asked, Big brother, are you from Feng Lake County? Yes, Director Du, how are you? Uncle Zhang heard someone speaking to him. When he saw it was Du Qingshan, he was slightly shocked and immediately replied. I am not Director Du, big brother, you can just address me as Xiao Du would do. You should be a few years older than me. Du Qingshan put on a big smile and quickly added, I had not expected us to be from the same area. As he spoke, he smiled radiantly and said to the old man of the Song family, Director Song, we are from the same hometown. I'll look out for big brother in the future. No one would dare to offend him. When the old man from the Song family saw Du Qingshan walking over trying to curry favor, he nodded his head in satisfaction. Come with me in a while. Yes, yes. Du Qingshan was thrilled upon hearing the old man from the Song family. His face turned red in agitation as he looked to Uncle Zhang. Big brother, we should be friends since we are from the same place. Let me just go give my monetary gift. Du Qingshan said as he walked towards the place to give the monetary gifts. At this moment, the middle-aged man was standing in front of the table collecting monetary gifts. The middle-aged man who was in charge of collecting immediately stood up, smiled and asked, "Sir, how much would you like to give?" $500,000. The middle-aged man from the Song family smiled before taking out stacks of cash from a briefcase. Whose name should I record for these? The middle-aged man's pupils shrank as he spoke. Just record it as the Song family, the middle-aged man from the Song family replied after pondering for a moment. All right. The middle-aged man nodded his head in a hurry. At this moment, Du Qingshan also walked over with a smile and said to the middle-aged man, "Hey brother, please help to record mine too." Do. Director Do. You. $300,000. Du Qingshan smiled. My big brother's daughter is getting married. It's only natural that I give a little more. Big brother. When the middle-aged man heard Du Qingshan, he swallowed his saliva before replying, all right. One gave $500,000 and the other gave $300,000. Stacks of cash now filled the table. Chapter 161, Wedding Car Lineup, 1. Gulp. Everyone around them was watching in disbelief. Subsequently, they cast envious glances at old Zhang and his family. They knew that old Zhang's family had achieved a place in the sun. Even the influential Du Qingshan had to fawn upon him with respect, and gave him $300,000 cash as a monetary gift. From now on, who, in the entire county, would dare to offend old Zhang and his family? Not to mention the Song family, who was more powerful than Du Qingshan. Everyone, please proceed to the function room. We'll begin our banquet soon. After Wang Xian and Xiao Yu told Song family, they walked towards Sisterly. Uncle Zhang was following beside them in a daze. But he was more happy and proud than ever. Let's go. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yu are awesome. Both of them turned into powerful people. That's right. Both of them just walked over and said a few words. The other party apologized immediately. The big shot they invited even struck out immediately. Old Zhang, you really hit the jackpot to have such nephew and niece. Old Zhang, don't forget us when you strike a fortune, said the crowd to Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, and Uncle Zhang pleasingly. The jealousy in them had long since disappeared. What they had were envy and fawning for Uncle Zhang. Uncle Zhang looked at the friends and relatives around him and appeared to be standing up with his head high. All this was because of his nephew and niece. At the same time, the banquet struck a blow to his relatives and friends. Most people felt regretful. If they had shown slight care and concern for the Wang siblings back then, they would be rewarded for it now. Even if it was a small reward from the Wang siblings, they could hold their heads up in the Feng Lake County. Oh, Aunt Zhang and Sister Li, aren't you rushing down to Rivertown today? Asked Xiao Yu with curiosity. The banquet ended at about 2 p.m., and Xiao Yu was driving Wang Xian, Aunt Zhang, and Sister Li back home. Sai, we'll be going tomorrow instead of today. Your Uncle Zhang is going to rent a wedding car. Since they're not coming to fetch us, we'll have to send Xiao Li over. Aunt Zhang shook her head slowly. Even though we settled the young guy today, it also irritated your Uncle Zhang. He could not take this lying down. So he decided we should send her over ourselves, Aunt Zhang said, looking at her daughter. Xiao Li, if Xiao Wei's family bullies you after you marry over, you can always come back. Don't endure them. Don't worry, Mom. Xiao Wei has been good to me. He's just too obedient to his parents. Sister Li pouted. Obviously, she was not very pleased with her boyfriend this time. Sister Li, what's the name of the future brother-in-law and his father? What kind of businesses are they into? Upon hearing their conversation, Wang Xian turned over and asked Sister Li. Your future brother-in-law is called Wei Jiwen. His family is in the medical equipment business. His father is Wei Qinghua, who has some reputation in Rivertown, Sister Li replied. Out of curiosity, she asked, Wei Xiaoxian. Do you know them? After learning of Wang Xian and Xiao Yu's strength today, Sister Li was also taken by surprise. Compared to how they were acting in the afternoon, her husband's family might not have such a daunting influence. Wang Xian shook his head. He took out his phone. I'll settle the wedding car. On top of that, I'll also settle some other things for you, Sister Li. As he spoke, he called Uncle Zhang and asked him not to rent any car. He would settle this matter. Sister Li stared at Wang Xian with a stunned face. She hesitated before she decided to swallow her words. Aunt Zhang quickly thanked him. After talking to Uncle Zhang, he continued to call the head of Ren family. Ren family had shares in most of the car dealers in Rivertown. Getting their help in finding a wedding car should be an effortless task for them. When the head of Ren family received Wang Xian's call, he was thrilled on the phone. He patted his chest and promised to prepare the wedding car. The car reached the home of Aunt Zhang. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu went to their house and sat for a while. In the evening, after having dinner at Uncle Zhang's place, they chit-chat with Uncle Zhang for half an hour in front of the door. After Wang Xian and Xiao Yu went home, Wang Xian dialed old Qin's number with hesitation. Hello, Wang Xian. What's the matter? Old Qin's voice was heard. Old Qin, I need to ask you something. Do you know Wei Qinghua, who deals with pharmaceutical equipment in Rivertown? Wang Xian asked Old Qin directly. Wei Qinghua? Are you talking about the Wei Qinghua from the Ling Medical Equipment Group? Old Qin asked with doubt. I guess so. He has some reputation in Rivertown. Wang Xian nodded. Old Qin, does Wei Qinghua have any immediate superior in the Rivertown? Or does he need to answer to any leaders or any organizations? Yes, two in the healthcare industry, and another one is Miao Zhiyong, who is cooperating with Duan family. Wei Qinghua also needs to curry favor with the rest of the hospital directors too, Old Qin answered. Can you help me contact them tomorrow? I need their help. Wang Xian said with a smile on his face. Haha, sure. Wang Xian, these are trivial matters. If they know you are the one who asked for their help, they will rush over here no matter how busy they are. Old Qin laughed out loud as he spoke. He knew about what had happened in the Yen family. After he heard Old Shui's account, he remained shocked for a long time. At the same time, he was glad that Qin family was on good terms with Wang Xian. Currently, who in Rivertown dared to defy Wang Xian? He may not have proclaimed himself to be the king, but everyone took him as the king without saying. Wang Xian chuckled. Thanks, Old Qin. You can pass them my number later and get them to call me. This time, I will make sure Uncle Zhang is completely out of worry so that he can enjoy his life from now on. After hanging up the phone, a faint smile surfaced on his face. After he settled Sister Li's matter, he would not have anything to worry about in his hometown. In the future, they could always come back to visit Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang once a year. In less than 5 minutes, a phone call came in. Hello, young Master Wang. I'm Miao Zhiyong. How may I help you? Back in a luxurious villa near a mountain, a middle-aged man was holding a phone with a beaming face as he asked respectfully. Hello, Director Miao. It's not something difficult. Are you free tomorrow? Yes, speak your mind, young Master Wang. Your matter is the most important thing now. Tomorrow, my sister is marrying someone from the Wei Qinghua's family in Rivertown. I need your attendance. Sure, young Master Wang. Just send me the address, and I'll go over tomorrow. Wang Xian nodded and smiled. Hubby, tomorrow is our 25th wedding anniversary. Where are you going? A wealthy lady next to Miao Zhiyong asked immediately when she heard his call. I can't make it tomorrow. I have to accompany a big shot to do something. Miao Zhiyong shook his head with a solemn face. At the same time, his eyes were filled with surprise. Old Qin, asked the wealthy lady sternly. Someone even more powerful than the Qin family. Chapter 162, Wedding Car Lineup, 2. Wang Xian made 4 to 5 consecutive phone calls. After which, he smiled satisfactorily. Every single one of them had promised to be here on time. What just happened to Miao Zhiyong was also happening to several wealthy and influential people in Rivertown. They were all people who had the abilities to directly or indirectly affect the Wei family's medical equipment company. In fact, if 2 or 3 of them were to join hands to mess with the Wei family, they would be able to force the Wei family to declare bankruptcy. Wei family's influence in Rivertown was still above average and had assets of $700 to $800 million. However, it had a weakness, and that was poor connections and background. Let's go to bed. After settling all the matters, Wang Xian got on the bed and fell asleep. The next morning, Wang Xian and Xiao Yu headed over to Uncle Zhang's house for breakfast. There were already quite a few people who had gathered there in the morning and were chatting. Xiao Xian, when will the wedding cars that you got be coming? I shouldn't have troubled you with this. If I had known that you were getting the wedding cars from Rivertown, I wouldn't have asked you to. Uncle Zhang sat beside Wang Xian and spoke while drinking pu'er tea. It's fine, Uncle Zhang. I've asked them to be here by 9 a.m. We will reach Rivertown by 11 and just in time. Wang Xian smiled. 9 a.m. It's almost time. Uncle Zhang nodded his head. Xiao Xian is a really great kid and knows about returning kindness. He has settled everything for you. Old Zhang, you don't have to worry, an old man beside Uncle Zhang commented. Yeah, I'm really lucky. Uncle Zhang smiled. Look. There are quite a number of cars heading our way. At this moment, a middle-aged man standing by the side saw the situation on the road. He was shocked by what he saw. The wedding cars are here. The rest of the crowd looked over inquisitively. At this moment, Wang Xian received a message on his phone. He stood up, smiled and said, "They are here. Once Sister Li is ready, we can go set off right away. Let's go, let's go." Uncle Zhang nodded his head and looked towards the wedding cars lined up from afar. He revealed a smile and went to the room to call Aunt Zhang and Sister Li immediately. Sister Li changed into her wedding gown. She had exquisite makeup on and looked extremely beautiful. What are these cars? They are simply stunning. There are even sports cars. Oh my gosh. There are at least 50 to 60 cars in this lineup. These cars are simply stunning. Wow. Look at the car plates. Look at those car plates. When Uncle Zhang and his family member walked out, they immediately heard the exclamations of the crowd. They looked over and were surprised to see 50 to 60 wedding cars. The one leading the lineup was a luxurious Rolls-Royce Phantom that cost over $10 million. Behind it were 9 other Rolls-Royces. Behind the Rolls-Royces, there were 10 Bentleys. Moving further back, there were Lamborghini Aventadors, Ferrari sports cars, Maseratis and many others. At the very end, 6 Land Rovers concluded the lineup of 50 to 60 wedding cars. Seeing such a luxurious wedding car lineup, Sister Li's jaw dropped in astonishment. However, what truly shocked her were the car plates of these cars. The Southern Province cars started with S. Cars from Rivertown would start with SB. The car plate number of the first Rolls-Royce was SB11111. The car plate number for the second Rolls-Royce was SB22222. Moving back, she even saw car plates like SB88888 and SB12345. Due to the influence of her finance, she knew a little about the significance of car plate numbers. An ordinary man would never be able to get numbers like SB11111, 22222, 88888. Those who owned these car plates were undoubtedly the filthy rich and influential people of Rivertown. How did Xiao Xian get these luxury cars? Sister Li was shocked. Young Master Wang, the wedding cars are here. Are you satisfied with these? At this moment, Ren Anji alighted from a car at the back and ran towards Wang Xian. Wang Xian had asked the Ren family to help him find some wedding cars, and the Ren family head had decided to let his son bring them over. Great. I have troubled you guys. Wang Xian nodded his head and smiled. Not at all, not at all. Ren Anji waved his hand in response. Alright, let's go then. Wang Xian looked at Sister Li and Uncle Zhang. Let's go, let's go. Xiao Xian, this lineup is a little too extravagant. Uncle Zhang sighed emotionally. Wang Xian simply smiled in response. He got onto Xiao Yu's car and the crowd headed towards Rivertown. Summer Sun International Hotel was one of the only 3 5-star hotels in Rivertown. Due to its connection with the Shui family, the Summer Sun International Hotel also had the best business. Today, the son of Wei Qingguo, Wei Jiwen, would be having his wedding in the Summer Sun International Hotel. The Wei family could also be considered as a respectable family in Rivertown. Therefore, the wedding of the future successor to the Wei family was done in a grandiose manner. What? The bride's party is sending their daughter over with the wedding cars that they sourced themselves? Within a luxurious room of the hotel, a middle-aged woman looked bitter as she questioned the young man. Yes, Mom. Isn't that great? She didn't have to come from the hotel. Once she arrives, we can start the wedding ceremony, the young man explained. Great? How can this be great? Isn't that embarrassing? Her family will probably get cars that cost several $100,000 as wedding cars. When they arrive at the hotel lobby, they will embarrass us. No way. This won't do. The middle-aged woman spoke with a hideous look. They could choose to not go to the bride's house, but their son's wedding had to be luxurious in Rivertown. Tell me, Qingxiu is such a fine lady. Her family background isn't any inferior to ours. Furthermore, she just returned from her overseas studies. You. The middle-aged woman pointed at the young man and remarked angrily. Alright, alright. Now that they are getting married, let's not talk about these scenarios. Just get someone to escort her to the 8th floor when she arrives, Wei Qingguo interrupted. Dad, aren't we going to receive them at the lobby? The young man said bitterly. He was none other than Wei Jiwen. Doesn't she have legs? Is she handicapped? After this wedding, if her parents aren't satisfied, get them to look for a better family, the middle-aged woman commented grumpily. Mom, how can you say that? Xiao Li is my wife and your daughter-in-law. Upon hearing his mom's comment, Wei Jiwen wasn't pleased. Alright, Mom shall not speak of her in such a manner. I'll try to manage our relationship in the future, the middle-aged woman replied. She still loved her son deeply. Wei Jiwen nodded his head with satisfaction. At this moment, the middle-aged man added, we are not going to receive them. Just get Xiao Li to come up directly. Wei Jiwen revealed a bitter look. After giving some thought to it, he finally nodded. In that case, I'll let Xiao Li know. Sigh. It would be great if you married a girl like Qingxiu. If our families worked together, our business would reach new heights. Why did you choose a girl from a village? Sigh. When the middle-aged woman saw her son leave, she sighed emotionally. What else can we do? This child is determined to marry her. He even made her pregnant. TSK. It's entirely the village girl's fault. Chapter 163, The Price of Getting Off the Car, 1. A fleet of 50 to 60 wedding cars drove into Rivertown in a massive formation as they headed to the Summer Sun International Hotel. 10 Rolls-Royces, 10 Bentleys, and the rest were other posh cars like Lamborghinis Aventadors and Maseratis. This team of wedding cars, worth at least $300 million, looked extremely lavish. When the cars entered the city area of Rivertown, they drew the immediate attention of many people. Such a luxurious wedding fleet was uncommon. Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang were sitting in a Rolls-Royce, looking around happily. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu were beaming as they followed behind the car fleet. Sister Li got married in a blink of an eye. I wonder when it'll be your turn. Xiao Yu stared gleefully at the car fleet in front. You think too much. I'm only a year 2 student, Wang Xian said nonchalantly as he darted a look at Xiao Yu. Hee hee. Xiao Yu chuckled. The car fleet quickly arrived at the doorstep of the Summer Sun International Hotel. There was ample open space for parking in front of the hotel. Under the direction of the hotel staff, a fleet of 50 to 60 wedding cars was parked in rows. The scene was spectacular. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu stepped out of the car. Wang Xian fished out his phone and made calls to those who had contacted him yesterday. After he ended the call, Miao Zhiyong and the rest of them, who were waiting for him in advance, trotted over. Young Master Wang. 6 of them greeted him with a beaming face. Thank you for taking the trouble to come over here today, Wang Xian said to them with a smile. It's no trouble. You're welcome. Miao Zhiyong and the rest quickly waved their hands. It's our honor to offer you our help. Besides, it's a small matter. Thank you. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. What? They want us to go over ourselves? This is fucking too much. Our car fleet has arrived downstairs and yet, they refuse to receive us personally. What is this? At the same time, Uncle Zhang's raging voice was heard from the front. Wang Xian frowned slightly and walked over immediately while Xiao Yu followed behind quickly. Miao Zhiyong and the rest who were following behind were puzzled as well. When they received the orders from Old Qin and young Master Wang to put up a front for the bride and Wei family's wedding today, they thought of such a situation. But now, it seemed more severe than they thought. Is the Wei family seeking their doom? A middle-aged man could not help but whisper. Let's take a look. What's wrong, Uncle Zhang? Wang Xian and Xiao Yu walked to the first Rolls-Royce and asked Uncle Zhang doubtfully. Wei Jiwen is such a loser. He wants us to go to the 8th floor ourselves. Going there by ourselves? They are not even providing the wedding car. Now that we're here, they didn't even bother to receive us. Do they know the rules? Aren't they bullying us? Uncle Zhang raised his voice in a fit of anger. Aunt Zhang, next to him, was looking dreadful. Sister Li was looking embarrassed. This is too much. What a bunch of assholes. Xiao Yu raged after she heard Uncle Zhang's account. However, she immediately covered her mouth the moment she realized her choice of words. Xiao Yu, you're right. Those assholes think we're some pushovers. Uncle Zhang immediately agreed with what Xiao Yu said. You think it's troublesome to fetch us in a wedding car? Fine. Yesterday, you refused to show up at the wedding banquet of the bride. This is over. And now this? Uncle Zhang could not take it lying down anymore. When Wang Xian heard this, his face turned sullen. With a pair of cold eyes he said, Has the Wei family finished setting up the banquet in the hotel? Yes, they are done. They invited quite a few people over. Still, their family took this wedding seriously, Sister Li replied immediately. Seriously? They're trying to make themselves look good. What about us? This is not the first time. Uncle Zhang snarled. Sister Li did not dare to reply to her raging father. Calm down. Calm down. Aunt Zhang comforted him. We'll wait over here. They want to look good, right? Get them to come over and receive us. If they don't come, we're not going up. Let's wait and see. Wang Xian looked at Uncle Zhang and suggested. Xiao Xian is right. Xiao Li, you will tell Wei Jiwen to get his butt down here to receive us with his family. Otherwise, we're not going up. Tell him this is what I said. Uncle Zhang said directly. Xiao Li showed a bitter expression. But when she thought of Wang Xian's effort, getting her a fleet of luxurious cars in Rivertown, she was unhappy to walk up herself. So, she called her boyfriend. Wei Jiwen, who was greeting the guests, answered his girlfriend's phone immediately in the hotel. Soon, he had an embarrassing look as he hurriedly consoled her. "Mom, Dad, let's go down and receive Xiaoli, shall we? Xiaoli and her family have arrived." Wei Jiwen walked to his parents and said bitterly. "Her? Didn't we tell them to come up straight to the 8th floor?" The middle-aged lady frowned and said with an impatient expression. "Mom, the father-in-law said we must receive them. Otherwise, we're not following the customary practice," Wei Jiwen answered with an embarrassed look. "Practice? Since they're here, they should abide by our practices. Are we going to abide by their practices from the countryside? Can they afford it?" The middle-aged woman threw out mean words. "Get them to come up now and stop making trouble." Wei Qinghua frowned and continued. "We still have to entertain our friends and relatives." This, Wei Jiwen was feeling helpless. He made a call again. However, before he could even finish what he wanted to say, an angry voice was heard from the phone. "Wei Jiwen, I'm telling you now. Either your family comes down to receive us, or I'll send my daughter back." Upon hearing this, Wei Jiwen's face paled slightly. He was an introvert, and he had been an obedient child to his parents since he was young. This time, he had shown great determination in marrying Xiaoli. Now that he was in such a situation, he could not do much. "Dad, Mom." Wei Jiwen came to his parents with a dreadful look. "What's the matter?" The middle-aged lady raised her eyebrows and asked. "Father-in-law is unwilling to come up on his own. Let's go down, shall we? We just need to receive them and bring them up," Wei Jiwen pleaded as he asked. "Such a troublemaker." The middle-aged lady sulked as she stared at her son with dissatisfaction. "Fine. Let's go. It's not good if we insist." Wei Qinghua frowned and said to them. Let's go. We're going down to fetch the bride. Please take a seat, everyone." Wei Qinghua greeted his friends, relatives, and his business acquaintances as he prepared to go down. "Oh? Picking up the bride? Let's go and have a look." "Yes, we're going over too. We haven't seen how beautiful the bride is." Yes. Let's join the party." The friends and relatives around them followed behind with curiosity. They had yet to see the bride, so they wanted to check her out. Chapter 164, The Price of Getting Off the Car. Seeing the group of people following, Wei Qinghua had a ghastly expression. "If I let my relatives and friends witness the bride arriving in a wedding car that costs a few $100,000, wouldn't that be embarrassing? What will this tell them about us? They probably will say we are mean to let the bride sit in such a car." The middle-aged woman looked disgruntled. However, she couldn't possibly send them back after seeing their enthusiastic looks. This had made her look even more disgruntled. She really knows how to cause us trouble. Wei Qinghua mumbled softly as he headed down with a grumpy face. "Director Wei, why didn't you ask the photographer along? There should be video coverage for receiving the bride, right?" As the group of more than a dozen people walked out of the lift, one middle-aged man asked this. "It's fine. We like to keep this process simple. The two kids have already taken lots of wedding photos and videos as records." Wei Qinghua squeezed out a faint smile. "In that case, let our groom be at the front to receive the beautiful bride and the parents behind him to welcome their daughter-in-law," a middle-aged man joked loudly. "Let's go," the crowd behind him seconded. No one had noticed the looks on Wei Qinghua or the middle-aged woman. On the other hand, Wei Jiwen was wearing a faint smile as he walked out. "Where are the wedding cars?" When the crowd arrived at the lobby, Wei Qinghua looked around. He instinctively skipped the luxurious cars as he looked around him. Where are they?" The middle-aged woman also looked around. Her face darkened as she commented, "Don't tell me they are only coming in 2 or 3 cars. What a huge lineup of wedding cars ahead. Wow! Rolls-Royce and sports cars. Isn't that a little too extravagant? Oh my gosh! Take a look at those car plates. Which influential person of Rivertown do these belong to? What a grand lineup." I haven't heard of any wealthy man in Rivertown getting married today. At this moment, doubts sounded from the crowd of relatives and friends. Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged woman also saw the luxurious wedding car lineup. However, they did not believe they were from Xiao Li's family. They knew clearly about their daughter-in-law's family. The crowd also didn't believe that these luxury cars belonged to the Wei family. They knew the Wei family well. Although they were rich, they still couldn't afford a wedding car lineup that cost $300 million. Son, give them a call. The middle-aged woman heard the exclamations of the surrounding relatives. If the wedding cars that arrive in a while cost just a few $100,000, it would be really embarrassing in comparison with the luxury cars ahead. The middle-aged woman and Wei Qinghua weren't looking pleased. When the phone call got through, it was Uncle Zhang who answered the call. We are right ahead of you guys. Can't you see us? Wei Jiwen, who was making the call, was instantly shocked as he looked ahead. There was indeed a familiar face standing in front of the Rolls-Royce. Father-in-law, these cars. Come over. Uncle Zhang said impatiently before passing the phone to his daughter in the car. Dad, Mom, they are right there. Let's go over. Wei Jiwen pointed to the cars ahead and led the group over. Where? The middle-aged woman looked in the direction her son pointed and followed behind her son. There. Wei Jiwen pointed his finger again. Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged woman looked over and saw two familiar figures standing beside the Rolls-Royce. They were the parents of the bride. Why are they standing? Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged woman were shocked. When they got closer to the wedding cars, they started seeing other familiar faces. At this moment, they couldn't help but be surprised. They knew clearly about the bride's family and were extremely dissatisfied about it. They were from a village. However, they were in a Rolls-Royce luxury car right now and were surrounded by several dozens of other luxury cars. Even the Wei family couldn't afford such a grand lineup. What the? It can't be. Look at those luxury cars from the bride's family and those car plates. Aren't those the cars of the Ren family's head? And those cars right there. Aren't those the cars of several other wealthy men in Rivertown? Why are they all being used as wedding cars? Isn't the bride from the village? The Wei family wouldn't be able to afford such a luxurious line-up of wedding cars too. The crowd of relatives and friends were commenting and felt disbelief. Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged woman were also stunned by what they saw. Their daughter-in-law was indeed sitting in the luxury car. It's really hard to get you here. When Uncle Zhang saw them walking over, he remarked mockingly. Father-in-law. When Wei Jiwen heard Uncle Zhang, he greeted with embarrassment before looking towards Sister Li. Wei Qinghua and his wife asked, how did you guys get so many luxury cars as wedding cars? What? I can't get other cars to send my daughter over just because you are not willing to fetch her. Uncle Zhang replied angrily. Ha! Uncle Zhang's word surprised the crowd behind the Wei Qinghua's couple. They looked towards Wei Qinghua and his wife curiously. It seemed that they weren't very pleased about it. Moreover, the Wei family seemed to have not sent wedding cars to fetch the bride. Alright, let's talk after we get in. Let's go upstairs. We have a number of guests waiting. When Wei Qinghua heard Uncle Zhang, he quickly diverted the topic out of embarrassment. Those that had come along with him were all his relatives and friends. He didn't want to lose his composure here. Xiao Li, let's get up together. Wei Jiwen said to Sister Li, who was in the car. Wait a minute, brother-in-law. We had a hard time sending Sister Li over. How can she just go up with you? You've got to at least give her a red packet to get her off the car. These are the rules and customs. Wang Xian placed his hand on the car door as he smiled and spoke to Wei Jiwen. Uncle Zhang looked at the Wei family's reaction before turning to Wang Xian. He stood aside and didn't say a word. Red packet? Wei Qinghua and his wife were slightly shocked and Wei Jiwen frowned. They had not prepared any red packet. However, giving a red packet to get the bride off the wedding car was also a customary thing to do. The amount wasn't the crux of the issue. You guys must have gone crazy from thinking about money, the middle-aged woman grumbled softly. However, Wang Xian, who was closest to her, could hear her perfectly. Shaoli, let's not kick up a fuss. Will you just get off the car? The wedding is about to start. We can't afford to miss the auspicious hour. Wei Jiwen said quickly. Hee hee. Wang Xian looked at the Wei family's couple and revealed a cold smirk. At this moment, a mocking voice came from the back of the crowd. "Io, a wedding should be lively. Can it be that the Wei family didn't even prepare a red packet? How can you guys not show even this level of sincerity?" It was from Miao Zhiwei and the group. They could now tell that young Master Wang had invited them over to support him and mess with the Wei family. Any one of the 6 of them could severely damage Wei family's business. Any 2 or 3 of them together could make the Wei family bankrupt. Chapter 165, Painful Price. The sarcastic tone stunned Mr. and Mrs. Wei Jiwen, and the rest of their relatives and friends. Anger flashed within Wei Qinggua's eyes. He bet the in-laws wanted to embarrass them. Our Wei family is preparing a grand wedding, you. Wei Qinghua lifted his head with a furious look as he traced the source of the voice. However, he froze before he could finish his sentence as he looked shockingly at the 6 people in front of him. Director Miao, Director Li, Manager Fang, Director Zhao, Director Heng, and Director Wu. When Wei Qinghua saw them, his pupils could not help but constrict. All 6 of them were people whom he needed to fawn upon. Why? Why are they here? Hello, Director Wei. Miao Zhiyong smiled at Wei Qinghua with a sarcastic look on his face. Today, we are here to send the bride off. But, we didn't expect to wait this long. The bride came, and yet, you were slow in receiving her. You don't even have basic manners. Director Wei, you're doing things the wrong way. Yes. It was our oversight. Miao Zhiyong spoke as if he was teaching a lesson to Wei Qinghua. But Wei Qinghua did not dare to be displeased about it. He hurriedly bowed and apologized. If you want the bride to come out of the car, you should at least prepare some red packets. Director Zhao beside him grinned at Wei Qinghua. Yes, I got it. We'll prepare them right away. Wei Qinghua apologized with a nod, even though he was full of surprise. Why? Why did these 6 people come with the bride's wedding car? Was it a coincidence or? Uncle Zhang, Aunt Zhang, and Sister Li were shocked to see this. What was going on? Why did Wei Qinghua treat those 6 people beside Xiao Xian with so much respect? The relatives and friends behind Wei Qinghua were equally surprised when they saw this. Among them, some recognized Miao Zhiyong and the rest. All 6 people had a great influence on Wei family's business. Yes, we'll get it done now, said the middle-aged lady quickly with a constant mixed expression. If you don't have the red packet, that's fine. You can always give something else. Wang Xian smiled nonchalantly at Wei Qinghua and his wife. What else? Wei Qinghua knit his eyebrows slightly when he heard Wang Xian. Radiance flickered in his eyes as he stared at Wang Xian, unsure of his identity. Since it's for the bride, it's as good as switching the gift from your left hand to your right hand. Wang Xian looked at them with his lips drawn. Seeing everyone staring at him, he smiled and continued, all the shares of the Ling Medical Equipment Group and all assets of the Wei family can be treated as Sister Li's red packet for getting off the car. What? Are you insane? What sheer nonsense is this? As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, the middle-aged lady pointed her finger at Wang Xian and shrieked. What nonsense are you talking about? Wei Qinghua stared at Wang Xian with a dreadful look. Even Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang, next to him, were shocked. I think it is feasible. It's not a big deal to transfer Wei family's assets to the bride. Young Master Wang is right. You'll have to pay some price for getting a daughter-in-law. You didn't even receive the bride when she's been here for so long. Take it as a little punishment. Yes, since young Master Wang's sister is married to the Wei family, you can't treat her poorly. Assets transfer is not a big deal. Miao Zhiyong, Director Li and the rest persuaded Wei Qinghua in a cold tone. To them, it was a great honor for the Wei family since young Master Wang's sister was marrying their son. How dare the Wei family forego and pay no attention to the customary practice? No wonder young Master Wang had to get the 6 of them. Wei family was digging their own grave. This. Wei Qinghua's expression turned awful immediately when the 6 of them expressed their opinions. He was staring at Wang Xian with a pair of disbelieving eyes. Young Master Wang. The 6 of them actually addressed him as young Master Wang. The middle-aged lady watched this scene, looking pale. What are Director Miao and the rest trying to do? Force them. You can't blame me for asking too much. Sister Li held her banquet yesterday when she married to your family. But none of you turned up. Not even the groom. I even had to look for my own wedding car. In that case, I can only ask for a bigger red packet for my sister Li. Wang Xian beamed as he looked at the pale-looking middle-aged lady and Wei Qinghua. The relatives and friends behind them were shocked as they stared at them. None of them uttered a word. Transferring all our assets, isn't this too much? Wei Qinghua had a constant mixed expression as he spoke with a trembling voice. Nope, I don't think so, Miao Zhiyong answered with a face full of smiles. I can tell that the Wei family is bullying the bride's family. If you don't pay such a price, who knows if you will continue to bully the bride. That's right, Director Wei. You need to reconsider it. If you don't agree with it, we have our own ways too, Manager Fong said impassively to Wei Qinghua. How can all of you do such things? The middle-aged lady had an ashen look with her body trembling violently. Her voice sounded like she was crying. I'm getting a safety net for my sister Li, said Wang Xian coldly to them. Wei Qinghua, don't turn things ugly. Otherwise, you won't have a chance to make it up. Miao Zhiyong at the side threatened him. A look of despair flashed across Wei Qinghua's eyes. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Fine, we will transfer all our assets to our daughter-in-law. Please step out of the car. Great, Director Wei. You're generous. Come to us if you have any need in the future, Miao Zhiyong said smilingly to Wei Qinghua. A stick and a carrot. 6 of them could easily make the Wei family bankrupt. At the same time, they could bring Wei family to the next level. Upon hearing Miao Zhiyong, Wei Qinghua gave a smile. None of them knew if the smile was a happy one or an upset one. Perhaps it was both. Whatever had happened today was totally beyond his expectations. A daughter-in-law from the countryside, whom they despised, actually had such an influential brother. He could get all the people whom Ling Medical Equipment Group depended on over here. He wanted all of the Wei family's assets to be transferred under the bride's name. Yet, Wei Qinghua did not dare to refuse. Otherwise, Ling Medical Equipment Group would not survive for more than 6 months. How? The middle-aged lady was stupefied. Are they giving away the properties and assets that the Wei family worked hard for in the past decades just like this? To the daughter-in-law whom she had always looked down upon. Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang were dumbfounded as they looked at Mr. and Mrs. Wei, then back to Wang Xian again. Sister Li, in the wedding car, was looking confused. All the Wei family's assets are going under my name. Xiao Wei, aren't you getting the bride out of the car on your big day? The relatives and friends of the Wei family quickly got this situation out of a fix. Yes, Xiao Wei. Pick her up and get ready for the wedding, Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged lady said hurriedly. It was a situation that was hard for them to swallow, but nothing could be changed. In the future, they would have to please this daughter-in-law. Chapter 166, Getting a Beachfront House. Sister Li's wedding had ended and Uncle Zhang and his wife were delighted. After getting to know about Wang Xian's background from Miao Zhiyong and the group, Wei Qinghua and the middle-aged lady had given up on some thoughts that they were harboring. They knew about the reputation of Miracle Dr. Wang from the old street. It was just that they hadn't seen him previously. At this moment, they had truly witnessed his capabilities. To make up for their actions for the last 2 days, they even wanted to head to Pengzhou to host a makeup banquet. However, this idea was rejected by Uncle Zhang. Now that his nephew and niece had made him really proud in Feng Lake County, he wasn't really bothered by this. What made Uncle Zhang and his wife really contented was that they wouldn't have to worry about Xiaoli being put into a tough spot in the Wei family in the future. With all their assets transferred to Sister Li, the Wei family would have to treat their daughter-in-law really well. Otherwise, if they bullied Sister Li and she left, the Wei family would be finished. When the cowardly Wei Jiwen saw how this had developed, he was thrilled instead. This made Wang Xian and Xiao Yu a little speechless. This brother-in-law of ours really has no desire to be in conflict with others. Xiao Xian, Uncle really has to thank you for what you've done for this incident. After the wedding banquet, Uncle Zhang patted on Wang Xian's shoulders and spoke with a radiant smile. Uncle Zhang, these are just some small matters. Ask Sister Li to bring you guys to first-grade restaurant to have a meal over the next 2 days. Sister Li should know about it. This is the restaurant that I own. As for accommodation, you guys could stay with Sister Li over the next few days. Wang Xian smiled at Uncle Zhang and his wife. Sigh. Uncle Zhang patted Wang Xian's shoulders once again and heaved a sigh. With a flicker of gratitude in his eyes, he remarked, "Work hard." Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Uncle Zhang, Aunt Zhang, we are leaving. Xiao Yu waved at them before driving off. The returns of today are from small assistance rendered a few years ago. We are really lucky. Seeing the car disappearing from his vision, Uncle Zhang sighed emotionally. Aunt Zhang, who was standing by the side, smiled and wrapped her arms around Uncle Zhang's arm. Brother, where are we heading? Back to school? Xiao Yu asked curiously as she drove. Let's not return to school. It's not convenient to always stay at school. I'm thinking of getting a house outside school, Wang Xian said to Xiao Yu. Wang Xian had made up his mind to get a house several days earlier. The dormitory room was small, squeezy and inconvenient. He definitely would like to have a house outside the school. Moreover, it had to be a beachfront house. One where you could see the seas once you opened the windows. Brother, we are getting a house. Xiao Yu turned her head towards Wang Xian and asked excitedly. Wang Xian nodded his head. Let's get a beachfront house. Wow! Brother, let's go get a house. Xiao Yu remarked agitatedly. Wang Xian smiled. Let's go to the Supreme Seas Development Zone. Supreme Seas Development Zone was the name of a luxury development area. It was located by the Golden Supreme Coast. Golden Supreme Coast was an extremely beautiful beach in Rivertown. Currently, this piece of land was owned by a well-known developer. The developer had built a luxury living area on it and named it as the Supreme Seas Development Zone. Houses within the Supreme Seas Development Zone were all beachfront houses. They were beside the seas and were sufficiently warm, so that flowers could bloom during the spring season. The Supreme Seas Development Zone was a little far from the city area and would take 40 minutes by car. It was also a half-hour ride away from school. The car arrived at the entrance of the Supreme Seas Development Zone and they could see the golden beach illuminated by the sun from afar. The entire beach was extremely breathtaking. Within the zone, there were wooden huts and beautiful pools. The villas weren't beside each other and were widely apart from one another, just like a standalone villa. Over this piece of land, there were only 30 to 40 villas. Let's go take a look at the sales office. Wang Xian looked to the sales building by the side. All right, brother. Xiao Yu nodded her head and drove the car to the front of the sales building. The Supreme Seas Development Zone was relatively pricier than the surrounding cities. The price of the villa started at 30 million each. From what he understood from his research online, the houses in this area weren't sold out yet. Xiao Yu stopped her car at the entrance of the sales building. After alighting, she skipped joyously to Wang Xian and held on to his arm. "Excuse me, is there anything I can help you with?" There weren't many people in the sales building. Only 4 to 5 salespersons were in it, and they were just sitting by the side and playing on their phones. A beautiful saleslady asked after seeing Wang Xian and Xiao Yu walk in. Both of them were a little too young and no one had expected them to be buying a house. "We would like to view the houses." "How many houses are left in this zone?" Wang Xian asked directly. "We are only left with the 2 most expensive villas. Their prices are both above 60 million. As for the rest, they are sold out." The saleslady smiled and replied. Can you bring us to view the houses?" Wang Xian asked directly. "Are you sure you guys are buying?" That saleslady looked at them in shock. "Can't we view the houses?" Wang Xian frowned and repeated his query. "Yes, you can. Of course, you can." After taking a further look at their dressing, the saleslady nodded her head. "In that case, bring us there." "All right. Please wait a moment while I go get the keys." The saleslady nodded her head, took out 2 rings of keys before saying to them, "Please follow me." When she walked out of the sales building and saw the pink Bentley parked at the entrance, she was shocked. Soon, the smile on her face got deeper. "Sir and Miss, let's get there by cable car." The development area of the Supreme Seas development zone was huge and the separations between villas were huge. Sitting in the cable car, the sales lady introduced the area to them enthusiastically. "As of this moment, we still have 2 villas that aren't sold. These villas are also the best. The villas have 3 floors with an area of 1,500 square meters. There's also a car park slot beside the houses." The sales lady brought them to the first villa. Looking from outside the villa was exquisite. The villa had a large yard in the middle of it with different kinds of flowers grown. The villa had 3 floors with each floor spanning approximately 500 square meters. The house was already renovated and fitted with the necessary furniture. There was a study room, individual bathroom and even a gym. On the 3rd floor, there was even an indoor pool. The entire villa was extremely luxurious. The price for this villa is $73 million. There's another villa a short distance away. That villa would be over $80 million, the sales lady said to them. "Let's go take a look at the other one." Wang Xian looked around the villa before saying this to the sales lady. The sales lady smiled and said, "All right, sir. The other villa has a completely different style from this. When you open the window of the other villa, the seas are just right below. The interiors are fitted with the best sound isolation materials. Therefore, you won't find it noisy at night. Let me bring you guys there to take a look." "Sure." When Wang Xian heard her words, his eyes lit up and he nodded his head immediately. Chapter 167, Breeding Spiritual Grass, 1. "This is the one!" Wang Xian exclaimed with excitement as he stood by the villa's window and looked down at the sea. It was a villa which was located deep within the Supreme Seas development zone, close to the sea. This villa was built on a towering rock that emerged from the sea, thus having the seawater right beneath it. It was different from the other villas that were located more than 100 meters away from the sea. The entire villa stood at 3 stories, and the exterior had a swimming pool that linked to the sea and a boat placed beside the villa. The exciting thing was the slide placed on the roof, allowing people to slide straight into the sea. This villa seemed much more magnificent than the previous one which he had viewed. "How much does this villa cost?" Wang Xian asked the saleswoman excitedly. "Sir, this villa is currently selling at $83 million. If you are able to make the full payment, you may have the property only for $80 million. You may have the villa with all the facilities available inside," the saleswoman replied politely. $80 million, Wang Xian nodded and said, "I'll take it. May I sign the contract and stay in today?" "Yes, of course." The saleswoman nodded with enthusiasm and shook, and moved herself right beside Wang Xian. She looked at Wang Xian with glittering eyes and brushed her breast against Wang Xian's arm. All right, please bring me the contract, and if possible, I shall stay here today. Wang Xian spoke as he looked coldly at her. Oh yes. Yes, sir. The saleswoman nodded and walked out with some disappointment. Wang Xian made his way up to the top level of the villa and watched Xiao Yu view the surroundings with excitement. Choose a room for yourself. Wang Xian said to Xiao Yu. All right, brother. I'll choose the room on the second level, she replied excitedly. Okay, I shall have the room on the third level then. That reminds me, brother, my master will be coming over and staying with us later, Xiao Yu told Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded and said, sure, we can give Elder Fong the room right beside yours. When is she coming over? Wang Xian was not surprised that Xiao Yu's master was staying with them. Ever since Xiao Yu had become the saintess of the Thistles and Thorns sect after joining the sect leader Tang had always wanted to arrange someone skillful enough to protect her. However, Xiao Yu turned down the offer. Fortunately, Elder Fong would be following her from now on. Apart from giving martial arts guidance, she would also ensure Xiao Yu's safety. I just sent her the address, she will be here in the afternoon, said Xiao Yu. Okay, Wang Xian acknowledged. At this moment, the saleswoman came back with a middle-aged man in a suit. Sir, we have brought all our information, and we may proceed with the transaction now. Sure. All it took was just the signing of the purchasing contract and the payment. Sir, if you have any needs, you may contact us via our hotline, and we will answer your needs as soon as we can, the middle-aged man said to Wang Xian with much veneration. Oh yes, I really do have a need. Does your company provide purchasing services for yachts? Wang Xian had always dreamed of possessing a yacht. A yacht would complete that sea view villa. It would also be a pleasure to take Xiao Yu or Guan Shuqing out to the sea for a ride. Having a zesty life on the sea could not be more wonderful than swimming under the sea in his dragon form. Yachts? The middle-aged man was stunned for a while and replied, well, we have a collaboration with a yacht agent who represents a well-known yacht brand in the world. If you wish to purchase, we have a booklet with the various types of yachts. He took out a booklet and handed it to Wang Xian. The yachts were known as the top luxury brand in Italy. Wang Xian viewed the price of the yachts, which ranged from $3 million to $80 million, came in different styles and were mesmerizing. This yacht costs just as much as this villa. Xiao Yu was shocked as she came and looked at the different yachts in the booklet. Wang Xian nodded, he pointed at a particular yacht and said, how's this one? It's beautiful, but it costs $40 million, it's too expensive, Xiao Yu replied with her lips pouting as she looked at the yacht that Wang Xian had pointed out to her. The yacht stood at 26 meters long and was able to make long-distance travels. The interior concept was no different from a house. It was filled with all kinds of amenities such as a dining area, a bedroom, and a living room. The double-decker yacht was grand and luxurious. Let's decide on this, then, the cheaper ones are too small, Wang Xian said decisively. Both the middle-aged man and the saleswoman were astonished. Within a day, $120 million had been spent. Sir, we will need you to pay the deposit first, and we will deliver the yacht within a week, said the middle-aged man, in an ordering manner. Sure. Wang Xian nodded and made the payment for the deposit immediately. Thank you, and contact us if you have any needs. As both the middle-aged man and the saleswoman left, Wang Xian lay on the sofa with a huge smile on his face. Just the renovation of the entire villa alone cost tens of millions of dollars, with all appliances purchased from top brands in the world. Xiao Yu also toured herself in their new home happily. Brother, my master has arrived, I'm going out to receive her. Xiao Yu ran out of the house. By then, half an hour had already passed as Wang Xian was chatting with Guan Shuqing on his mobile phone. Brother, come and help me out. Wang Xian stood and went outside as he heard Xiao Yu's voice after a short while. As he arrived at the courtyard, he saw a Wrangler SUV had been parked. Xiao Yu, with her master and the chauffeur, had their hands full. What seemed peculiar to Wang Xian were some grass and stones that were removed from the car. What are these? asked Wang Xian as he looked dumbfounded. These are some spiritual stones and spiritual grass that possess spiritual energy, replied Elder Fong, who looked at Wang Xian in bewilderment. Spiritual stones and spiritual grass that possess spiritual energy? Wang Xian was stunned for a while and immediately went up to pick up one of those stones. Dilapidated spiritual stones. Instantly, some words flashed across Wang Xian's head. Spiritual stones. Wang Xian's eyes started to fill with fire, but he shook his head. Wang Xian needed a complete spiritual stone. Dilapidated spiritual stones were totally useless to him. He looked at the spiritual grass, but there was no sign given from his system, as the grass may have been too low in terms of level. These items are used as a form of support for Xiao Yu's training, said Elder Fong as she took out 2 tufts of spiritual grass from her car carefully. The tufts of spiritual grass were placed in a wooden bucket of half a meter wide, which was filled with red mud and some spiritual stones. One of the tufts appeared to be redder in color, and it glowed with red halation. The other tuft had some green fruits which were about the size of a pinky fingernail, grown on it, and there were 5 to 6 of them. Chapter 168, Breeding Spiritual Grass, 2. 100-Year Blood Nurturing Grass, Level 1. Extractable Dragon Energy, 665. 100-Year Spiritual Bead, Level 1. Extractable Dragon Energy, 343. What? When Wang Xian saw the information about these 2 tufts of grass, he was shocked. He was actually able to see the level of these medicinal grasses. Moreover, dragon energy could be extracted from them. Nope, they should be referred to as spiritual medicine. 100-Year Blood Nurturing Grass. Could it be that this medicinal grass has been living for 100 years and has evolved into a spiritual grass? Wang Xian thought to himself. Our Thistles and Thorns sect had a hard time getting these 2 tufts of grass. This is the blood nurturing grass. Consuming it would strengthen one's breathing and blood flow and strengthen one's body. This is the spiritual beads grass. Consuming the spiritual beads on it could increase one's spiritual strength. However, the spiritual beads on it haven't matured and would require an additional month. Spiritual grasses like these are few even in the entire Thistles and Thorns sect. Elder Fong explained as she held on to the 2 tufts of spiritual grass. Master, are those stones with spiritual strength and spiritual grasses expensive? Xiao Yu looked at the white and translucent stones around her and asked inquisitively. They are naturally precious. Now that we are at the age of Dharma decline where spiritual energy is scarce, cultivation is extremely difficult. Not everyone has the inborn constitution like Xiao Yu. A small stone like this will be enough for an ordinary ancient martial artist to absorb. However, each one of these is worth several hundreds of thousands. The value of these 2 tufts of grass is even higher. You can't get it without 4 to 5 million. Moreover, many would see these as priceless. Even if you have the money, you might not be able to get them, Elder Fong explained to Xiao Yu patiently. Wouldn't that mean that the stones with spiritual energy and these spiritual grasses are worth 40 to 50 million? Xiao Yu remarked in astonishment. There were over 100 stones with spiritual energy that her master had brought over this time. Together with these precious spiritual grasses, the value was extraordinary. These resources are for your training use for the next half a year. There will be an auction in the southern province tomorrow. At that time, there would be spiritual grasses up for auction. I'll bring you along to get some items, Elder Fong continued. Xiao Yu's eyes lit up as she nodded her head slightly. The Thistles and Thorns sect had highly valued Xiao Yu's inborn constitution. They weren't stingy at all when it came to various cultivation resources. Let me place the remaining spiritual grass in a place with ample sunlight. Xiao Yu, bring these spiritual stones into your room. I'll teach you how to absorb the energy in a while. Elder Fong said to Xiao Yu. All right, master, answered Xiao Yu. Miracle Dr. Wang, I'll be troubling you for the near future, Elder Fong said to Wang Xian. It's all right. You are Xiao Yu's master. I should be thanking you for guiding her. Wang Xian shook his head. Although Elder Fong wore loose clothing, her perfect body was just like a mature peach. Looking at her was pleasing to the eyes. Elder Fong nodded her head and smiled. After which, she took the tufts of medicinal grasses to the front yard. With the assistance of a middle-aged man, she planted them. After watering them and placing some broken spiritual stones around them, Elder Fong finally nodded her head in satisfaction before heading back to the villa. As for the driver, after helping Elder Fong, he left immediately. After seeing them leaving, Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before appearing in front of the medicinal grass Elder Fong had planted. Wang Xian knew relatively little about medicinal grasses. Medicinal grasses and medical techniques were often highly related. However, the shame was that Wang Xian was just a pseudo-miracle doctor. It seems like only medicinal grasses that are over 100 years could be considered as level 1 spiritual medicine. Only then can I see their information and extract dragon energy. Wang Xian confirmed the thought in his mind. From another perspective, the devil flowers that he met in the seas previously could also be considered as a form of spiritual medicine. Level 1 spiritual medicine is worth 4 to 5 million. This is similar to the value of a 100-year-old ginseng. Can I breed my own spiritual grass? Wang Xian pondered. When he knew how precious spiritual medicine was, as well as its effects, he had a thought in mind. As a divine dragon, coupled with the fact that he could turn into an azure dragon of wood attributes, he could control all types of plants. The most common ability and what he was most apt at in this moment was controlling plants. Using wood attribute energy, he could make the plants grow at a rapid pace and control them for attacking. Does this mean that I can breed spiritual medicine rapidly? For example, making a 100-year spiritual grass grow into a 500-year spiritual grass in a short amount of time? If Wang Xian could do it, he would be a bug-like existence in the future. All the experts in the ancient martial arts circle would be requesting spiritual medicine from him. At that time, he wouldn't have to worry about the resources required for the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian had spent a total of $120 million to buy the villa and the yacht today. This left him with only 30 million. How poor was he? Wang Xian walked in front of the medicinal grass that Elder Fong had planted. There was a total of 10 tufts of them. These medicinal grass were all around 30 to 40 years old and weren't cheap at all. This is the spiritual beads medicinal grass. However, it has not borne the spiritual beads yet. Wang Xian looked at the medicinal grass. It was different from those that Elder Fong had placed in his own room. This was just a seedling in comparison. It still had some effects if consumed now. However, the effects were a far cry from those 100-year-old spiritual beads grasses. Those that were below 100 years were classified as medicinal grass. As for those above 100 years, they were classified as spiritual medicine. Wang Xian bowed down and dug out the spiritual beads grass. SSS. Moving his finger slightly, a dense aura of the azure dragon surrounded the grass and prevented it from dying. Let's experiment on it. Wang Xian returned to the villa. When he walked past the second floor, he noticed that Elder Fong was guiding Xiao Yu with her cultivation. He headed for the third floor directly and closed the door. I hope it will work. The spiritual beads grass was only about 20 centimeters tall and had the thickness of a thumb. It was of a bright green color, just like bamboo which had grown out of the earth. It was much smaller than the one in Elder Fong's hands a while ago, which was half a meter tall. Wang Xian held it and emitted an intense aura of the azure dragon. Gradually, he injected them into the spiritual beads grass. The spiritual beads grass glowed in a faint green color. Wang Xian noticed that spiritual beads were growing at a very slow pace. It really works. Wang Xian's eyes lit up as he continued injecting the aura of the azure dragon into it. This is it. However, after 10 minutes, Wang Xian could feel that all the energy in his body had been depleted. The spiritual beads grass had only grown by 10 centimeters. Indeed, it isn't that easy to create a spiritual medicine. Wang Xian's complexion was pale and he felt fatigued. He hesitated for a moment before going to the top floor of the villa. After removing his clothes, he slid into the seas from that slide. Dragon transformation. Wang Xian dived into the seas. He noticed that the waters directly below were only about 1.5 meters deep. Swaying his body, he swam towards the seas rapidly. Splash! The giant body of the divine dragon appeared. Wang Xian held that spiritual bead's grasp between his lips and swam to the region where the waters were 7 to 8 meters deep. After which, he created a space that was free of water. Wang Xian in human form was a lot weaker than when he was in the dragon form. The energy in his body in human form was also a lot lower. With a change in thought, lights of 5 colors were emitted from his body and he turned into an azure dragon with wood attribute energy. I don't believe I can't create a spiritual medicine. Wang Xian stared at that spiritual bead's grass as a dense aura of the azure dragon was injected into it gradually. Chapter 169, Breeding Spiritual Grass, 3. Immense energy of azure dragon filled itself into the spiritual bead herb, which spurred its growth. The azure dragon energy had allowed the herb to grow from 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters. Gradually, the spiritual beads grew to half a meter under the irrigation of the energy. Why hasn't it reached the level of a spiritual medicine? Wang Xian stared at the spiritual beads in bewilderment and used his dragon energy to check its status. Oh my! This spiritual bead might be at a bottleneck stage. Wang Xian frowned. Every living thing had its shackles to unlock, spiritual grass included. It usually required a long period of time before the spiritual grass reached the stage of spiritual medicine. As time passed, the energy of the herb would be accumulated, and it would be able to break free from its shackles. What Wang Xian was trying to do was to speed up the growth by force, but it was unable to break the shackles. Looks like it's not going to be as easy as I'd expected. Wang Xian frowned again as he realized that it was not easy to cultivate spiritual medicine. It would be too absurd to think that any random person with a wood element energy could use their power to speed up the growth for spiritual medicine. In fact, unknown to Wang Xian, his azure dragon energy contained essence of the wood element. A pinch of energy was equivalent to 100 points of wood elements. As he was trying to recover from the energy lost, he gave it a thought and shook. Since spiritual medicines are able to boost my dragon energy, does it mean that the shackles can only be broken by injecting dragon energy? Immediately, Wang Xian injected some dragon energy right into the spiritual bead herb. Instantly, Wang Xian saw spiritual beads born from the spiritual bead herb. Spiritual bead, level 1. Extractable dragon energy, 432. Yes! I did it! I did it! A tuft of herb had finally been cultivated into spiritual grass after a massive amount of azure dragon energy and 14 points of dragon energy had been used up. Wang Xian was definitely on cloud 9. In conclusion, compared to the energy depleted in cultivating the medicine and the amount of energy he could gain from it, he still had close to 400 points of dragon energy surplus. However, the time taken to cultivate should be taken into consideration as well. It was not just the energy that was the crucial element. Assuming Wang Xian took this amount of time, he would probably gain more than 400 dragon energy if he hunted in the sea. I shall continue and see if this can be cultivated to a higher level. Wang Xian's heart was filled with willpower as he pumped more azure dragon energy into spiritual medicine. The azure dragon energy allowed the spiritual bead medicine to speed up the growth upon breaking its shackles. Gradually, as the spiritual bead medicine grew, the 6 spiritual beads on the stalk began to turn red. After an hour, Wang Xian exhaled a long breath, looking exhausted. In just an hour, he had used up all his azure dragon energy, which only allowed the spiritual medicine to grow to about 80 centimeters, and was still far from the full evolution. He decided to recover his energy before he carried on. As the full recovery took place after an hour, he continued to pump the energy into the spiritual bead again. Slowly, it grew to 90 centimeters, and to 1 meter. Wang Xian sensed yet another shackle upon reaching 1 meter. guess I have to use my dragon energy again. The difference between the Azure Dragon Energy and the Dragon Energy was the Azure Dragon Energy contained essence of the wood element and could be replenished through recuperation upon full consumption, while the Dragon Energy would be gone permanently under the same circumstance. Currently, Wang Xian's Dragon Energy was standing at 500,000, so it was not a big deal using just a bit to cultivate a tuft of spiritual medicine. This time, Wang Xian used up 200 Dragon Energy. Spiritual Bead, Level 2. Extractable Dragon Energy, 2312. It's Level 2. It has reached Level 2, and the 6 spiritual beads have turned a fiery red color. These spiritual beads might be in their 500th year. He thought and continued to cultivate. Since it was still early, he wanted to see how far he was able to cultivate. 1 hour passed. 2 hours passed. 8 hours passed. 10 hours passed. I'm exhausted. Wang Xian lay flat on the seabed like a dead dragon after 12 long hours. This was just like fighting in a war. No one would be able to stand after fighting such long hours, especially when all energy had been used up. However, a smile was drawn across Wang Xian's face as he persevered to push the spiritual medicine to 3 meters with the 6 spiritual beads bore with yellowish fruits. Spiritual Bead, Level 4. Extractable Dragon Energy, 13,654. A Level 4 spiritual medicine had been created after more than 10 hours, utilizing more than 3,000 Dragon Energy. He realized that the cultivation would get tougher and tougher. It would require at least 3 days to reach Level 5. It would take half a month to reach Level 6. The higher the level, the tougher it gets. It might even need 3 to 4 months or more in order to reach Level 7 or 8. He had to go on without any recuperation during this period. I shall let Xiaoyu try on one to test its effectiveness, said Wang Xian happily as looked at the fruits and continued to recuperate. Compared to the Level 1 spiritual beads, the current fruits were at the size of a fist and were beaming with a faint yellow light. With a twist of his body, Wang Xian had transformed back to his human form. He then leaped to the villa's roof. In his hand he held the spiritual bead medicine which stood at the height of 3 meters and the circumference of an arm. Let's place it here then. It should not perish with the vitality of Level 4 spiritual medicine. Wang Xian set the 6 fruits down as he left the Level 4 spiritual medicine on the roof. If anyone were to know that the spiritual medicine had been left on the roof, it would invite countless powerhouses to the villa to compete for it after a day. I guess it's past 8 o'clock, Wang Xian thought as he looked at the sky, which had already brightened up after he was gone with the cultivation for more than 10 hours since the day before. He got himself dressed and made his way down. He peeped into the rooms at the 2nd level. It seemed like both Xiaoyu and her master had already gone down. When he came to the ground floor, he heard soft exclamations from outside. He came to the front door and saw that Xiaoyu was training with a sword in her hand. Sweat was rolling down her cheeks. On the other side, Elder Fong was dressed entirely different from her 2 previous outfits. She was dressed in a complete tight-fitting gear which displayed her perfect body line. Such sultriness to that derriere which was firm, round and big. Such enticement with her hair tied up. Elder Fong was standing on the other side while giving guidance to Xiaoyu's sword skills. All right, we shall call it a day. We need to rush to Flow City, said Elder Fong as she looked at the time. Who? Xiaoyu took a deep breath and replied, Yes, master. Brother. Where did you come from? And just where were you yesterday? Asked Xiaoyu with some astonishment as she saw Wang Xian standing at the front door. She had searched for her brother for a long time when he had suddenly disappeared. Oh, I went out and got something for you, said Wang Xian with a smile. How mysterious. I can't believe that you are starting to hide things from me already, said Xiaoyu, with her lips touted. Feeling unhappy, she said, What on earth did you get from me that you had to leave without a sound? I almost called the cops after a long and wasted effort searching for you. Ahem ahem. Wang Xian smiled awkwardly as he was faced with his sister's complaint and said, I went to get something for your training. Here, Take this. As he spoke, he presented the fruits bore from a level 4 spiritual medicine. Chapter 170, Auction, 1. A yellow fruit appeared in Wang Xian's hand. When Xiao Yu wiped off the perspiration on her face and saw the fruit, she was completely speechless. What? You went to get fruit for me? Ha! However, Elder Fong, who was beside Xiao Yu, frowned upon seeing the fruit in Wang Xian's hand. This isn't any ordinary fruit. This is something your brother had to work an entire night to get for you. Wang Xian was speechless as he walked towards Xiao Yu with the spiritual fruit. This is highly nourishing. TSK. You must be lying to me. All you like to do now is lie to me. Xiao Yu pouted and was clearly not convinced. This is. Suddenly, excitement flashed past Elder Fong's eyes. She had a shocked expression and her exclaim was filled with disbelief. Oh? It seems like Elder Fong has recognized this fruit. Wang Xian smiled at Elder Fong. Puff puff. Elder Fong's breathing was rapid. Her gaze was tightly fixed on the yellow fruit in Wang Xian's hand as she mumbled, "Spiritual bead takes 100 years to turn green, 500 years to turn red, 1,000 years to turn orange and 1,500 years to turn yellow. This is the fruit of a level 4 spiritual beads grass." Elder Fong explained and her body was shivering slightly. She looked on in disbelief. She did not have a great understanding of spiritual medicine in general but was very clear about spiritual beads grass. The Thistles and Thorns sect had paid a huge price to get a level 1 spiritual beads grass. At that time, she had gone to find out more information about spiritual beads grass. The fruits from the spiritual beads grass were known as spiritual beads. Based on the difference in level, the colors would be different too. Fruits from 100-year grass, 500-year grass, 1,000-year grass and 1,500-year grass were green, red, orange and yellow respectively. Based on the color of this fruit, it was clear that it was the spiritual bead of a level 4 spiritual beads grass. She had not even seen a level 3 spiritual medicine, let alone a level 4. Rumor has it that for a peak level 9 martial artist, he has a 10% chance of advancing to half-step to Inborn if he consumes a level 4 spiritual bead. If he can gather the entire spiritual medicine, he would have a 60% chance of advancing. 10% might seem low but it was in fact very high for a level 9 martial artist, let alone 60%. Elder Fong's face was turning a little red from excitement. This made her even more alluring. The value of this level 4 spiritual bead is similar to an entire city. Miracle Dr. Wang, how did you get it? I did expend a lot of effort to get it, Wang Xian smiled and replied. Seeing the shocked expression on Elder Fong, he felt a little proud of himself. It was just something he created by skipping a night of sleep. Hee. Expend a lot of effort, Elder Fong's expression was interesting to watch. She really didn't know what else to say. Getting a level 4 spiritual medicine just because you have expended a lot of effort. Master, is this fruit really that awesome? Xiao Yu opened her mouth slightly and asked in astonishment. This is a spiritual bead and isn't an ordinary fruit. Elder Fong gritted her teeth. She felt that this pair of siblings was really strange. One managed to get a level 4 spiritual bead after expending a lot of effort, while the other asked if this fruit is really that awesome. If it wasn't because of her great mental qualities, she would probably be spewing blood. Level 4 spiritual bead couldn't be bought with anything less than $700 to $800 million. Moreover, even if you have the money, you need to wait for the opportunity too. The frequency of the sale of level 4 spiritual medicine might not even be once in an entire year throughout the ancient martial arts circle, Elder Fong explained. This. So expensive? Xiao Yu's eyes popped open and were filled with disbelief. Yeah. Elder Fong nodded her head solemnly. More often than not, level 4 spiritual medicine couldn't be measured using money. Under most circumstances, there have to be exchanged with other objects. Oh my gosh. It's worth that much? Wang Xian was shocked too when he heard Elder Fang's explanation. He had initially thought that the value of this fruit to be a few dozens of millions at the maximum. It was beyond his imagination that this would worth $700 to $800 million. It seemed like he had underestimated the value of a level 4 spiritual medicine. What do you think? Xiaoyu, do you want to try a fruit that costs $700 to $800 million? Seeing Xiaoyu's shocked expression, Wang Xian joked. Xiaoyu swallowed her saliva and stared at the spiritual bead in her brother's hand, which she had previously dismissed as just a normal fruit. Miracle Dr. Wang, Xiaoyu's current cultivation level is a little too low. She wouldn't be able to withstand the enormous spiritual energy in it. It's better to wait for her to consume it after reaching level 9. Elder Fang's mouth twitched a little as she spoke. Can we just cut it into smaller pieces before eating? Wang Xian was taken aback and asked inquisitively. That's possible, but a large portion of the energy of the spiritual bead would be lost, Elder Fang said. It's fine. Just cut it smaller and eat it. If Xiaoyu can't finish it, Elder Fang, you can have some. Although it's a little hard to get this, it is not impossible to get, Wang Xian said nonchalantly and emitted the aura of a ruler. Seeing how he could say those words calmly, Elder Fang was stunned and didn't know how to respond at the moment. Her Thistles and Thorns sect had gone through mountains and seas just to get a level 1 spiritual medicine to aid Xiaoyu in her cultivation training. In the end, Xiaoyu's brother easily took out level 4 spiritual medicine for Xiaoyu to waste. This. Can it be that it's our Thistles and Thorns sect that is too trash-like? No, it's this juvenile who is too insane. Elder Fang looked at this mysterious and good-looking juvenile and started to go into a daze. That's a little beyond her imagination now. Miracle Dr. Wang from the old street of Rivertown is definitely not that simple. She thought to herself and had a desire to demystify the aura around Wang Xian. Brother, you are really nice to me. I'm sorry for grumbling about you previously. Xiaoyu walked over, feeling touched. Haze. All you have to know is that I've done all these things for you. Wang Xian smiled. However, if you are leaving next time, you still have to inform me. Otherwise, I'll be calling the police. Xiaoyu continued. Upon hearing her, Wang Xian's face stiffened as he patted her head. At this moment, Elder Fang commented, let's not let Xiaoyu consumes the level 4 spiritual medicine. We can head to the auction today and see if we can get some level 1 or 2 spiritual medicine for Xiaoyu. Auction? Wang Xian was taken aback slightly and looked at Elder Fang in doubt. Yeah. An auction organized by the 9 Stars Auction House. 9 Stars Auction House's auction is a blend of ancient martial arts and modern style. As long as you have the money, you can enter. They will be hosting an auction in the southern province this time. All the wealthy people and ancient martial arts sects in the surrounding 2 provinces will likely be sending their representatives over. The scale of this auction is pretty huge and would likely have lots of precious items. Elder Fang looked at Wang Xian as she explained. Oh? If I have something to put up for auction, can I leave it there for sale? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. He only had approximately $30 million and less than 1% of the resources needed for the Dragon Palace had been gathered. It was time to get some money. It's a little too late to sell it by consignment now. However, there's a session after the auction that allows one to exchange items for items. Naturally, you could get money for your items. You can even save on the auction fees in this way. Consequentially, you might not be able to get a good price since you lack the publicity. Elder Fang explained to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head and made up his mind. Brother, what are you selling? Xiaoyu asked Wang Xian inquisitively. A few blood corals. Wang Xian thought about it. That heart-shaped blood coral with the other corals should be able to fetch $100 to $200 million. However, it was still too little. And a level 4 spiritual bead. As he spoke, he took out another yellow-colored level 4 spiritual bead. Elder Fang and Xiaoyu were instantly stunned. Chapter 171, Auction, 2. When Elder Fong saw another level 4 spiritual bead, she suddenly felt like she was a beggar who had met a filthy rich person. Her lips were parted slightly as she stared at the spiritual bead that every martial artist wanted to lay their hands on. Such a spiritual bead was held casually by Wang Xian, who wanted to sell it for money. He dismissed this as something simple. Xiao Yu was also stunned when her brother held out the spiritual bead. She hugged her brother's arm immediately and exclaimed, "My tycoon brother. Enough, let's go." Wang Xian smiled at Xiao Yu, "Get yourself washed up. You stink." "Okay." Xiao Yu nodded to Wang Xian and ran back to the villa joyously. Elder Fong stared hard at Wang Xian before she walked back to the villa. Wang Xian went back and checked out the kitchen. He realized Xiao Yu and Elder Fong had bought a lot of food when he opened the refrigerator. He made a simple breakfast and waited for Xiao Yu while eating it. "Wow, brother. You made breakfast. But we can only have it on our way. The auction is about to begin." Xiao Yu was thrilled as she took some food from the table and handed her master some. "Are we in such a hurry? Then let's go now." Wang Xian stood up and nodded. The auction starts at 10:30 am and ends at 3 p.m. "It will be almost 10:30 when we arrived at Flow City," said Elder Fong to Wang Xian. "Okay, let's set off now." Wang Xian nodded. He took out the blood corals and headed outside. Flow City was the capital of the southern province. The prosperity of the city was similar to that of Rivertown. It was also a second-tier city. However, Flow City was nearer to the first-tier city, Summer City. As such, the riches and the ancient martial artists from the two provinces would be going to the auction held at Flow City. Here's a list of the auction items. Miracle Dr. Wang, you can take a look to see if anything catches your eye. Elder Fong handed an exquisite auction booklet to Wang Xian. "Thank you." Wang Xian nodded and took over the booklet with curiosity. The first page was an introduction to 9 Stars Auction House. 9 Stars Auction House was considered the first-class force, mainly for auctioning some items that were from the ancient martial art world and the present society. Apart from the Starry Auction House managed by the Starry Sacred Sect, 9 Stars Auction House was the top-notch auction house in the domestic country. Each auction they held could attract many wealthy people and experts. This auction was the same as well. Wang Xian flipped to the second page, which showed the first item for auction. The authentic calligraphy of Li Bai. Li Bai, known as the Sword Celestial, was also a legendary ancient martial artist and a powerful inborn expert. The name, Sword Celestial, was crowned for his mighty swordsmanship. At the same time, he had integrated his swordsmanship into his calligraphy. According to rumors, if anyone could decipher his swordsmanship from his calligraphy, he would definitely be able to obtain the inheritance of the Sword Celestial. The first item, Li Bai's authentic calligraphy, held high value in collection and cultivation. The bid started from $20 million. The second item was an antique which was not as expensive as the first one, with a starting bid of several million. Subsequently, there were other antiques, accessories, and all kinds of jewelry. Apart from those, there were things like renowned swords and herbs ranging from millions to billions. Many things inside the booklet stunned Wang Xian a little. Besides that, there were a few secretive items which were unrevealed. However, the booklet claimed that these items would spur fierce competition among the experts. Wang Xian flipped through the booklet and had some understanding of the auction. The car drove them fast to the border between Flow City and Summer City at 10:10 a.m. This area was a suburb with a pleasant environment and a beautiful lake next to it. It was surrounded by villas too. The car finally came to a halt in front of the auction house where various branded vehicles were parked around it. 9 Stars Auction House. Wang Xian stepped out of the car and walked forward. He saw a huge stone monument standing beside the auction house as it gave off a majestic vibe. "Let's go. It's almost time," said Elder Fong to Wang Xian and Xiao Yu. The two of them nodded and walked toward the entrance. "Please show your pass." Two young men stood at each side of the entrance spoke. Elder Fong took out a pass and handed it to one of them. "You may enter," he said respectfully after examining it. "Young Master Lu, you may enter." At this time, the two young men spoke to the person behind them with respect. Qingyue, 9 Stars Auction House shares a close relationship with the Lu family. I'll get them to keep a lookout for nice jewelry from now on. A young guy's voice was heard from the back. "Thanks, young Master Lu." A girl thanked him in a monotone voice. "You're welcome." "I ought to do this," said the young guy. Wang Xian, who was about to enter, paused when he heard the conversation between the young guy and the girl. His expression changed. "Hey, why did you stop suddenly? Move!" The young guy's impatient voice was heard from behind. Wang Xian hesitated before he spun around. Xiao Yu and Elder Fong turned back with questions too. Xiao Yu looked at the pretty girl in red and parted her lips. She quickly turned to her brother. At this time, Wang Xian knit his eyebrows slightly when he saw that girl. She was still the same one who liked to dress in red. Looking ravishing as before. The only difference was she seemed to be more aloof and tired. The girl was Lan Qingyue. When Lan Qingyue saw Wang Xian, she was shocked, surprised, and more, she felt a great sense of loss. "How?" Wang Xian opened his mouth. "How have you been lately?" He was mostly responsible for Lan Qingyue's withdrawal from school. Wang Xian had always felt guilty to her. "I'm good. How about you?" Radiance flickered in Lan Qingyue's eyes, but her face remained expressionless. "I'm good too." Wang Xian smiled. Young Master Lu, who was beside Lan Qingyue, was shocked as he looked at Wang Xian and Lan Qingyue again. His expression slowly turned awful. Everyone could tell that Lan Qingyue had some relationship with this lad. "Qingyue, who is he?" Young Master Lu asked with a darkened expression. "Just a classmate." "Let's go," Lan Qingyue replied in a down-spirited tone and walked forward slowly. Young Master Lu looked at the back view of Lan Qingyue with a mixed expression. He then glared at Wang Xian with a pair of ruthless eyes. He walked over to Wang Xian and whispered a warning, "Brat, I don't care who you are. Just stay away from Qingyue. Otherwise, I'll make sure you live in a living hell." Wang Xian was already in a bad mood when Lan Qingyue left immediately. Hence, he was impatient when he heard the young guy threatening him. Scram! Chapter 172, Auction, 3. Scram! When young Master Lu heard Wang Xian, his face stiffened instantly. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and revealed a hideous look. "Great! Great! You are the first person who dares to speak to me in such a manner." Wang Xian looked him in the eyes before walking in impatiently. Young Master Lu stared coldly at Wang Xian as murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Miracle Dr. Wang, that is Little Sword Celestial, Lu Feiyun, from the tyrannical sword family, a first-class family. He already possessed the strength of a level 7 martial artist at the age of 27 and specialized in swordsmanship. He once defeated 3 martial artists of the same level with his swordsmanship and has since been known as the Little Sword Celestial. His talents are tremendous. Seeing that Wang Xian had made Lu Feiyun his enemy, Elder Fong frowned and reminded him. Wang Xian nodded his head. However, he was focused on the figure in red dress ahead of him and wasn't paying attention to Elder Fong's reminder. Seeing how he reacted, Elder Fong shook her head slightly. The decorations within the 9 Stars auction house were extremely grandiose. When one entered, he would see a huge hall. Tables and chairs were already set up within. At the very front, there was an elevated platform of approximately a meter tall. There was a huge screen on the elevated platform that would be used for the auction. The auction house could be divided into 2 floors. The lower floor was for the public and there was an additional floor above it. For the second floor, they were mainly suites. There were quite a number of suites which totaled 20 to 30. These suites weren't VIP suites or for those with strength. Instead, It was just a very ordinary suite. One could not see the clients that had walked into a suite from the outside. These were private spaces that 9 Stars Auction House had prepared for their clients. Some clients might not want to let others know that they had obtained some precious items from the auction. Therefore, they would prefer to enter into a suite. As one of the top auctions houses in the country, 9 Stars Auction House would also ensure 100% confidentiality with regards to the buyers and sellers' information. Let's get into a suite. Elder Fong took a glance at Lu Feiyun, hesitated for a moment, and led Xiao Yu and Wang Xian to a suite on the second floor. One could still clearly see what was happening on the ground floor from within the suite. More and more people entered the 9 Stars Auction House. This auction was clearly highly successful, with approximately 200 people attending. These people were largely from the southern province and the 2 other provinces neighboring it. There were entrepreneurs, directors of large organizations and strong experts from ancient martial arts families and sects. The ratio of wealthy men to martial artists was roughly 1-to-1. From the second floor, Wang Xian could see Lu Feiyun and Lan Qingyue sitting around a table near the elevated platform. Lu Feiyun was explaining to Lan Qingyue enthusiastically. Wang Xian looked away and started observing the people of the auction. Lu family of the tyrannical sword from Hailing province, ancient fist sect, Lingyue sect from the Dongqing province and demon subduing sect. I had not expected the first-class forces from the 2 neighboring provinces to all be here. Elder Fong looked down and spoke solemnly. The Lu family members who practiced tyrannical sword, ancient fist sect, Lingyue sect from the Dongqing province and demon subduing sect were all first-class forces. Speaking of which, the southern province was relatively weaker and didn't have any first-class forces. Welcome, everyone, to our 9 Stars Auction House. At 10 a.m. sharp, an old man walked up to the stage and spoke to the guests. The old man was loud and didn't require another sound amplification system. He was able to project his voice clearly to everyone's ears. This is sound transmission art. This old man is at least a level 8 martial artist. Elder Fong explained to Xiao Yu. Martial artist level 8. Incredible. Xiao Yu revealed a shocked expression. 9 Stars Auction House can be considered to be in the top tier even amongst the first-class forces. They have 5 to 6 inborn experts and their disciples are extremely strong. An ordinary first-class force couldn't be compared with it. Elder Fong continued her explanation. Xiao Yu nodded her head and looked down curiously. We have a total of 40 items on auction today. Without further ado, we will be starting the auction for the first item, a real calligraphy piece of Li Bai. Li Bai was known by many as the Sword Celestial and had integrated his swordsmanship into his calligraphy. If anyone could decipher his swordsmanship from his calligraphy, he would definitely be able to obtain the inheritance of the Sword Celestial and become invincible, the old man remarked. 2 beautiful and employees in skimpy outfits carried a calligraphy piece onto the auction stage. The handwriting was wild but had sharp vibes to it. Any ancient martial artists would be able to tell that this piece of calligraphy wasn't ordinary. However, it was extremely hard to decipher anything from it. The starting price will be $20 million. The auction begins. Ding, $25 million. Just as the old man completed his sentence, the screen on the stage showed that there was someone who had upped the bid. For this auction, one wouldn't have to raise a card. Everyone had a button in front of them. One would just need to enter the bidding price and press the button to submit one's bid. $25 million from that Mr. at table 8. Is there anyone who would like to make a bid? The old man revealed a price after seeing the bid price. The crowd immediately turned their attention to table 8. This calligraphy piece, I'll definitely be getting it. Around table 8, Lu Feiyun lifted his head proudly and made his intention clear to all. He's the little sword celestial of the tyrannical sword. It's the Lu family. Let's just forget about it. We naturally wouldn't compete with the little sword celestial for the swordsmanship. Since young Master Lu is so determined, we naturally wouldn't compete with you for something you are fond of. The crowd looked at Lu Feiyun. Some of them greeted him while some exchanged customary words. Within the auction house, the Lu family would rank in the top 4 in terms of strength. Unless it was necessary, no one would like to compete with the Lu family. Haha, thank you, everyone. Lu Feiyun revealed an excited look. He laughed loudly and greeted the crowd before turning his attention to Lan Qingyue, who was beside him. Qingyue, if there are any jewelry-related items in a while, I can win the bid for you. With the name of our Lu family, others would still show us respect. Lu Feiyun looked at Lan Qingyue proudly. Thank you, Mr. Lu. However, the Zhou jewelry has Lingyue sect as their support. Would I be troubling young Master Lu? Lan Qingyue shook his head gradually and looked to a table just a short distance away. Lingyue sect? Lu Feiyun squinted his eyes and replied confidently, Qingyue, our Lu family isn't afraid of the Lingyue sect. Let me help you. If our enemy is only Lingyue sect, there's nothing to be afraid of. At this moment, the old man on the stage shouted suddenly, a $35 million bid from Suite 13. Is there anyone who would like to increase the bid? Lu Feiyun was taken aback. The smile on his face stiffened. He immediately lifted his head and looked towards the big screen. On it, Suite 13 had just made a bid for Li Bai's calligraphy work at $35 million. The crowd was slightly shocked too as they looked at the enraged Lu Feiyun. $40 million. Lu Feiyun's face sank. He lifted his head and looked to the location of the suite as he sneered. $45 million. At this moment, Suite 13 increased the bid by another $5 million. The gloominess on Lu Feiyun's face was heavy. Just a while ago, he still claimed confidently that everyone would show his Lu family respect. Just as he finished his sentence, someone stood out and competed with him. The action was similar to slapping him in the face. Chapter 173, Jewelry Standoff. Brother, do you want to buy this painting? Xiao Yu looked at Wang Xian shockingly in Suite 13. Nope. Wang Xian shook his head. Then why are you bidding on it? Xiao Yu threw him a stunned look. He just irks me. Wang Xian said with a smiling face. Xiao Yu and Elder Fang looked at Wang Xian, speechless. $50 million. Does anyone want to bid any further? This time, an elderly man's voice was heard. Wang Xian looked and realized that many people were casting their glances over their sides. Wang Xian gave a playful look and stopped his bid. Since Lu Feiyun was so determined to get that calligraphy, Wang Xian purposely raised the bid to annoy him. Lu Feiyun wanted to save his face. As long as the Lu family's reputation was concerned, he would not let go easily. Wang Xian took this as an advantage to up the price. Congratulations to Little Sword Celestial for winning the auction for Li Bai's authentic calligraphy. I hope young Master Lu can obtain the Sword Celestial's inheritance. When the elderly man on the auction table saw that Suite 13 gave up bidding, he knocked on the table and gave a final confirmation. Lu Feiyun was not as thrilled as just now even though he'd won the auction. His face turned glum, and he went silent. He might have gotten the authentic Li Bai calligraphy, but he spent an additional $25 million and got a slap in his face. Naturally, he was in a bad mood. One by one, the items were auctioned away. Next on the list, a tuft of level 2 spiritual medicine Renling leaves of 500 years. After consumption, it could enhance body strength and strengthen body skin. This was the famous foundation building spiritual medicine. The auction began from a base price of $15 million. Level 2 spirit medicine is beneficial to your current cultivation. I will bid on it for you. Elder Fang stared at the auction item again with an unwavering expression. She immediately increased the bid to $20 million. $20 million. $21 million. $22 million. The competition for level 2 spiritual medicine was better than those antiques. The number of competitors reached a dozen instantly. $30 million. Elder Fang was not surprised by this situation. When the bid hit $28 million, she increased to $30 million immediately. The price of $30 million has already surpassed the value of level 2 spiritual medicine. $30 million? Forget it. It's too expensive. Spending $30 million for a tuft of Renling leaves is not worth it at all. After all, it's only useful to level 4 and 5 martial artist. When the price hit $30 million, the individual families and sects shook their heads slowly. $30 million was beyond its own value. Elder Fong did not feel the pain for such a price that surpassed its own value. Since it was for the cultivation of Xiaoyu, it was worth it. Suite 13 bid $30 million. Is there any higher price? The elderly man stood on the stage and asked everyone. Suite 13. Cold radiance flashed in Lu Feiyun's eyes. He cast a glance upstairs and sneered. $31 million. Young Master Lu bid $31 million. Any more bidders? Lu Feiyun's bid slightly stunned the elderly man. Subsequently, he drew a smile on his face. The other party bid $30 million. They should be determined to get this tuft of spiritual leaves. Young Master Lu is upping the price. Looks like young Master Lu bears a grudge against Suite 13 from when they raised his bid just now. This is revenge. People from Suite 13 were ignorant. Provoking young Master Lu is not a wise choice. When the crowd saw Lu Feiyun raise the bid for another million, they understood immediately and exchanged discussion in whispers. Back in the suite, Elder Fong's expression was awful when she saw Lu Feiyun bid deliberately. Xiaoyu, at the side, raged as she glared at Lu Feiyun, who was sneering. Forget it. Let him have it. It's just a lousy level 2 spiritual leaves, said Wang Xian to Elder Fong. He drew a faint, cold smile when Lu Feiyun was competing with him. Elder Fong was slightly stunned with a mixed expression. Level 2 spiritual leaves are not lousy. Ha! Wang Xian chuckled out in embarrassment as though he spoke too haughtily. He quickly smiled and repeated, not lousy, not lousy. Any more bids? The elderly man's voice was heard from the auction table again. He was surprised as he looked towards the second story. Logically speaking, Suite 13 should continue to bid if they were determined to get this item. Why are they keeping quiet? Lu Feiyun at table 8 was also taken aback. Coldness slowly faded out from his face. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Congratulations to young Master Lu for winning the level 2 Renling leaves once again. The congratulatory voice of the elderly was heard again. Gosh, they people of character. Young Master Lu was obviously provoking them. They actually surrendered. This is not about a man of character, but rather, that there is no need to fight anymore. For a level 2 Renling leaves, $30 million is already too much. This young Master Lu is unwise. He raised the bid because the other party wanted the item out of spite. In the end, the other party withdrew while he stumbled on it. The surrounding people exchanged their conversations in whispers as they looked at Lu Feiyun and shook their heads. What a fool, little sword celestial. If it wasn't for his gifted talent in cultivation, he'd be totally useless. People from Suite 13 know their limits. On the contrary, Lu Feiyun was too hot-headed. It's hard for him to succeed. In the hall, people from the Ancient Fist sect and Lingyue sect looked at Lu Feiyun as they commented impassively. Young master, we still have to bid for the last few items. We should not overspend. A middle-aged man frowned slightly as he reminded Lu Feiyun. I know. Lu Feiyun darkened his expression as he stared at Suite 13 with resentment. Lan Qingyue, on the side, shook her head when she witnessed this. Next, we're auctioning the emerald gemstone, weighing 2 kilograms at a starting bid of $200 million. A jade green-colored emerald gemstone was taken out, and it was beaming with dazzling glow under the lights. Emerald gemstone was considered to be the top-class jewelry. A carat would cost tens of thousands. A 2-kilogram emerald gemstone was worth over millions of dollars. The emerald gemstone could be used to make a dozen sets of jewelry. The price of $200 million had silenced everyone in the hall. The affluent people stopped at the sight of it, while the martial artists would not buy ravishing but impractical jewelry. $210 million. Just then, an aloof voice was heard. Lan Qingyue raised the price and spoke emotionlessly. $220 million. The Zhou are determined to get this emerald gemstone and all the jewelry today. An arrogant voice cut the air as a middle-aged lady stood up with multiple posh accessories hanging around her. She spoke impassively to Lan Qingyue. $230 million. Lan Qingyue said as she looked at the lady with an unchanged expression. Chapter 174, A Strange Stone. $250 million. Just as Lan Qingyue completed her words, the voice of the middle-aged woman sounded. She looked at Lan Qingyue and gave a cold smirk. The two large jewelry companies are going against each other head-on. A contest between two organizations that are worth dozens of billions each. This is going to be interesting. I heard that Lingyue sect found a gemstone vein on Lingyue Mountain that produces lots of precious gemstones. The Zhou jewelry has deep connections with Lingyue sect. After obtaining the support of Lingyue sect, the Zhou jewelry has been on a frantic drive to quash deep-sea jewelry. It was said that deep-sea jewelry's billion-dollar investment in Dongqing province failed completely a while ago and they lost everything. The Zhou jewelry has the backing of a first-class force while deep-sea jewelry doesn't have the support of any ancient martial arts forces. When competing with the Zhou jewelry, deep-sea jewelry is at a deep disadvantage. I heard that deep-sea jewelry will have a political marriage with the Lu family of the tyrannical sword. I wonder if that's true. The surrounding crowd was looking on in shock as they witnessed the contest of these two large organizations. Deep-sea jewelry and the Zhou jewelry were ginormous organizations in the southern province and Dongqing province. Their financial wealth wasn't something that ordinary rich people could compete with. Despite seeing the strong stance put on by the middle-aged woman, Lan Qingyue maintained her emotionless face. $331, $53 million. If the Zhou jewelry would like to continue bidding, the deep-sea jewelry will choose to give up. Lan Qingyue said to the middle-aged woman plainly. When the middle-aged woman heard Lan Qingyue's bid, she was taken aback slightly as she stared at Lan Qingyue fervently. I finally understand why the Lan family will let a little girl like you take over the deep-sea jewelry. You're indeed capable. This piece of emerald gemstone is worth at most $331, $53 million when made into jewelry. You can choose to ignore the cost of production, but if this gets too high, it will become pointless. Nonetheless, what's important is that the deep-sea jewelry couldn't afford to absorb these losses. But the Zhou jewelry can. The middle-aged lady revealed a faint smile and increased the bid, $331, $54 million. Lan Qingyue wasn't shaken. She did not increase her bid or say a word. Congratulations to the Zhou jewelry for getting a precious piece of emerald gemstone at the price of $331, $54 million. The old man looked at the middle-aged woman in astonishment before glancing past Lan Qingyue. That's what a real businessman would look like and how a fully commercialized organization should act. The middle-aged woman from the Zhou jewelry was incredible, but the girl from deep-sea jewelry wasn't simple either. The auction resumed. Pieces after pieces of antiques, jewelry, painting, precious swords and various weapons and spiritual medicine were being auctioned off. Elder Fong was able to get her hands on a level 2 spiritual grass for Xiaoyu as she fulfilled her wish. Wang Xian looked at the various items put up for auction, but none really caught his attention. He didn't know how to appreciate antiques, jewelry and paintings, and had no need for weapons or spiritual medicine. He simply sat down and drank his tea. The next item is rather unique. One could see it as a piece of art. However, it has a faint mysterious energy signature and is indestructible. The consignor has placed this with us for sale at a starting price of $10 million. The auction was approaching the end. The old man took a sip of tea before announcing this to the crowd. A piece of stone was being brought up the stage on a tray. The stone was entirely red with tiny marks on it. It was the size of a fist and looked magical and beautiful. The crowd below the stage looked inquisitively at this unknown item. This piece of stone was obtained by the consignor by chance in the seas. Our auction house wasn't able to tell what this is. Even an inborn expert couldn't destroy this stone. The starting price is $10 million and the auction will begin now. The old man continued. The fist-sized stone was projected onto the screen for everyone to take a good look. An unknown item being auctioned at $10 million? Isn't this a little too expensive? A martial artist looked at the stone inquisitively. Even an inborn expert couldn't destroy it. It might be a treasure. Perhaps one could make a killing after buying it. Even an inborn expert couldn't tell what this is. Do you think you will know? What's the use of getting it? A few martial artists exchanged their views and the surrounding crowd nodded their heads in approval. Since the stone had been examined by inborn experts without results, what's the use of getting it? Oh? Isn't this stone pretty beautiful? The middle-aged lady from the Zhou jewelry was interested. She hesitated for a moment before entering a bid price of $10 million. The Zhou jewelry is really rich. All the jewelry sold today was bought by them and they had spent approximately $400 to $500 million in total. Deep-sea jewelry isn't able to get any peace at all. The rich always have the final word. For the near future, the Zhou jewelry might just become the largest jewelry company in the country. The surrounding crowd was astonished. With the support of Lingyue sect, the Zhou jewelry might evolve into the largest jewelry company in the future. When the middle-aged woman heard the exclamations of the crowd, she was cockily pleased as she touched the ruby in her hand. That stone. Why is it giving me a strange sensation? In a suite on the second floor, Wang Xian was taken aback when he saw that stone. He had felt a strange sensation welling up in his mind. He felt that this piece of red stone wasn't dead but alive. Why would I get this feeling? Wang Xian frowned deeply. However, as the distance was too far, he couldn't get any information. This piece of stone isn't simple. Wang Xian focused and made up his mind immediately. Following which, he entered his bid, $11 million. Suite 13 has made the bid of $11 million. Is there anyone who has a higher bid? The old man announced loudly. The middle-aged woman hesitated for a moment before increasing the bid to $12 million. $13 million. Wang Xian didn't up his bid immediately. Instead, he hesitated for a moment before shouting. The middle-aged lady from the Zhou jewelry didn't follow and the crowd didn't join in. $13 million, deal. Congratulations Suite 13 for getting this piece of mysterious stone. I hope that you will be able to unveil the mysterious aura around this stone. The old man congratulated him. Brother, what did you buy this stone for? Xiao Yu looked at him and asked while feeling lost. I feel that this stone isn't simple. I bought it to do some research on it. Wang Xian said. How can a stone be so special? Xiao Yu commented but didn't continue further. Wang Xian also didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the employee carrying the stone towards their suite. Wang Xian realized that the closer the stone was, the stronger the feeling he had. That palpitation seemed to have triggered a response from the deepest part of his bloodline. This stone is definitely not simple. Wang Xian felt his heart tingle and he stood up gradually. Creak. The door was opened and the employee walked in with the red stone. Sir, this is the item you have bid for. Wang Xian looked at that stone. His body froze immediately and his eyes were filled with shock. Essence blood of the Suzaku.